Hokage Starting from the Instant Full Level, Chapter 361 to 380. Chapter 361, One Shot Down. Elementalization. The yellow monkey roared, and the endless light spots on his body quickly lit up. In his eyes, it only took half a breath to be able to turn the whole into zero, perfectly avoiding this blow. Pity that this idea just sprouted in his mind, and the next moment, the hand knife wrapped in thunderlight had already taken the lead and smashed heavily on his elemental body. That could have ignored all ordinary attacks, but at this moment, seemed pale and powerless. Even made Huang Yuan unable to believe that at this critical moment, a sense of powerlessness emerged in his body. Boom! The dull thunder-like cracking sound, with the taste of going straight to the sky. The endless thunder and light splashed, and the impact of the air wave formed, so that the battleship under the feet could not bear it at all. The body of the yellow ape, in the elementalization, directly showed its body, like a comet, and slammed on the deck. Accompanied by the sound of thunderous explosions, the battleship, which was dozens of meters long, broke off at the waist. Kizaru's body, like a depth bomb, plunged straight into the sea. Bang! The endless waves rolled up, and the violent thunder and lightning, like electric snakes, swam away quickly on the sea surface. After another, the Sea Kings gathered in the sea area with a radius of several thousand meters were attacked by strong thunder in an instant, and they let out a fierce cry and fainted directly in the sea. The violent scene shook the Navy soldiers on the surrounding battleships. After stabilizing his figure in the wind and waves, he looked at Long Yu, who landed on another battleship, with disbelief. One blow, the General Kizaru, one of the three strongest naval forces, was split into the sea. If you don't see it with your own eyes, who wants to believe that all this is true? Okay, now, is it you diving, or let me help? The lightning on Long Yu's body instantly dissipated. It is not known how long the next voyage will last. Regardless of, is to deal with the pursuers, or other pirates, to frighten Shiryu of the rain on the same ship, Long Yu needs to be reserved. This time, he didn't make a move, and as soon as he made a move, he used the Halu stone fists that came from Kuduru to sink Kyabu into the sea, in order to knock the mountain and shake the tiger. We dance by ourselves. Seeing that even the dignified general couldn't withstand a blow, the naval soldiers on the battleship, the few remaining fighting spirits, disappeared in an instant, and they all fell into the water. As for the surrounding battleships, they obviously lost the courage to intercept them. For a time, the huge coastline seemed inexplicably dead. Feeling the change in the atmosphere of the scene, Long Yu reluctantly touched the tip of his nose and said, "Boatman, if you don't set off soon, do you want to regret it?" Shiryu of the Rain's expression was stagnant, but after staring at the scarlet blood-like eyes, he silently took out a cigar from the inner pocket of his suit and gave himself a shock. Immediately, under the watchful eyes of the public, he went to the cab to set sail and set sail. Looking at the dignified advance of Chinda prison, the second in command was reduced to acting as a boatman, and the naval soldiers stationed at the scene, in addition to being shocked, only silently watched Long Yu. Pushing into the city university prison, Magellan turned gloomy and rushed out from the 6th floor. The impact just now penetrated directly to the 6th floor, affecting several prisons, causing a commotion. However, being imprisoned in the 6th layer of infinite hell for many years, his strength has already been weakened infinitely. After Magellan expended some effort, he suppressed them. However, the final loss has not been counted, but he was restless, and after he blocked the entrance and exit with endless poison, he hurried back. Gollum, urgent notice, urgent notice. The voice of the phone bug rang suddenly. Magellan, with a gloomy face, quickly connected. What happened? Where did she stay? Hurry up and let him come back to me. The face of this sudden farce and the blow that ran through the city prison, Magellan's head became hot and Shiryu of the Rain was removed from his sight. Now that I have calmed down, the more I think about it, the more I can't calm down. Warden Magellan, something is wrong. After the skeleton demon escaped from the prison, he snatched a battleship and was stopped by the General Kizaru, who arrived. The yellow ape is here. Magellan's expression was stagnant, and then he showed a hint of joy. Let him stay alive, I want to know, what is his origin? In Magellan's eyes, no matter how powerful Uchiha Ryu's methods are, he is facing the Kaibaru, who has the shining fruit and is known as the three major naval forces. Must be within reach. Just that this idea has just emerged, and the answer that falls in his ear has shaken Magellan's nerves. General Kizaru was hit by the great skeleton demon and sank into the sea. Now I ask the warden to immediately send out search and rescue. As soon as he defeated Magellan's happy face, he suddenly stiffened, and it was even more unbelievable. In his eyes, Long Yu's strength is very good, especially the fall from the sky, the power is even more formidable. But Magellan was confident that if he hadn't underestimated the enemy at first, Long Yu's fall from the sky would definitely not hurt him, and he wouldn't be able to escape this big underwater prison. However, the messenger now told him that even the admiral had been knocked down in one move. The gap between the front and the back is too huge. Shiliu. Where is Shiliu? He is not a devil fruit person. Let him go to the rescue, and can't let Huang Yuan accident, otherwise the old man in the Warring States period will never give up easily. Magellan spoke hastily. As a devil fruit person, he clearly knows that the sea is their forbidden area. Regardless of how powerful is the yellow monkey, once it falls into the sea, it will be a dead end. Moreover, as the naval headquarters, one of the top three major forces, if he lost his life because he came to support the advanced city, Magellan could not escape accountability. After all, if there is an existence with the strength of a general, one less is one. However, these thoughts just flashed in Magellan's mind, and the words that fell in his ears broke his nerves. Hey, the head guard of Shiliu, he was invited by the great skeleton demon to act as a boatman and escaped together. The intermittent voice made Magellan's expression suddenly distorted. If this phone bug was not made of gold, it would have been crushed by him already. You bastard, bastard. Shiliu, I will definitely kill you. Magellan roared again and again, and at this moment, he only had one kind of feeling of suffocation. Warden Magellan, what's next? Inside the phone worm, hesitant questioning came out. After so many years, it was the first time that they saw Magellan furious. After all, the damage to the advanced city was even greater than when the Golden Lion escaped 15 years ago. Let Hannibal go. As for the Navy headquarters, I will report it myself. Hung up the golden phone bug after dropping a series of orders, and now his head is still a little swollen. However, even Shiliu fled, which made him even more impatient. He quickly turned around and returned to the 6th floor, and walked towards the damaged area. Chapter 362, Portal. Wherever it is in the heartland, the prisoners in custody are very important outside. For Magellan, he must see people in life, and must see corpses in death, otherwise he will not even sleep well. A day later, Long Yu opened his tightly closed eyes and looked at the unusually quiet cabin, frowning slightly. After going through many battles in Pushing City, his physical strength was not very good either, so after handing over the helm to Shiliu of the Rain, he entered the cabin to rest. Although Long Yu is very clear that Shiliu of the Rain has a lot of thoughts, but after unlocking the body, power, and the character template Bone King, Long Yu really hopes that Shiliu of the Rain will jump for a while, just to find an excuse to guide him in the direction of life. However, according to the current degree of swaying of the hull, I am afraid that the battleships of the Navy are not in a running state. Start, character template Ains or Dong. Ding dong, congratulations on the fidelity of the host character template, which has increased to 35%. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, get the 3rd level magic, group healing. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, you have obtained the 3rd level undead magic, and the negative burst. The ethereal sound of the system sounded one after another, causing Long Yu to raise his brows. Group healing is originally a 3rd level magic, which can display large-scale magic healing damage. Of course, this is only limited to cases where the injury does not exceed 40%. The negative burst is the Bone King's own undead talent magic, which originally belonged to the Sixth Order magic. Detonate its powerful undead magic in an instant, forming a dome-like shock wave. In the original book, even a group of Tier 6 summoned battle angels can instantly become scum in seconds. Now in the hands of Long Yu, because of his proficiency, his power is obviously only half. Of course, as Long Yu's proficiency in the Bone King's pretense increases, the power he can exert will gradually increase. However, after going through the battle with Kizaru, Long Yu's primary purpose was to learn the three-color domineering as soon as possible. And Shiryu of the Rain, as the second in command to advance the City University prison, is obviously a good choice. Portal. Long Yu snapped his fingers with his right hand, and the magic power emerged, tearing out a space-light door, and immediately stepped forward. However, under this operation, Long Yu still misses the staff of Ains Gong that was in the hands of the Bone King in the original book. It was made up of 7 painfully struggling snakes, each holding gems of different colors in their mouths, and each gem was an artifact-level guild weapon with different attributes and effects. Although Long Yu is currently unavailable, in order to improve the fidelity of the character template, I really need to get one by hand. When his thoughts flashed, all the scenery in front of Long Yu's eyes changed. Looking at the empty cockpit, the deep-set skeleton eyes and the flickering soul flames suddenly soared. Detection of the second-level magical beings. When the magic circle lights up all of a sudden, as a low-level sense of magic, Long Yu can accurately detect the lives of thousands of meters. 10 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters. As the exploration distance expanded, Long Yu's brows furrowed even tighter. In this battleship, there was no trace of Shiryu of the Rain at all. It seems that while he was resting, he secretly abandoned the boat and fled. However, the only thing that disappoints Long Yu is that this guy doesn't make mistakes, otherwise he doesn't mind being beaten up. Afterwards, he will force him to teach him a little more aggressively. There are a number of human responses and not a few. Dragon feather eyes. The soul flame in the middle suddenly rose, and after the detection magic reached the range of 500 or 600 meters, I could clearly feel the reaction of dozens of humans, groping to move forward here. Moreover, according to their trajectory, the battleship was obviously approaching the shore, otherwise Shiryu of the Rain would not have abandoned the ship in the windless belt so easily. Although Long Yu didn't want to cause trouble for the time being, but without Shiryu of the Rain as a boatman, he didn't know how to pilot a naval battleship. Only thing I can do is to see who doesn't have long eyes, and temporarily bring someone to act as a boatman. However, before Long Yu could make a move, a loud shout came from outside the ship. Navy, please come out and surrender quickly, otherwise we will shoot you to death if you trespass on 9 Snake Island. Navy, you disregarded our female Emperor Hancock, your conditions, and trespassed on our 9 Snake Island without authorization. Please come out and surrender now, otherwise don't blame us for disregarding the so-called Chihuahua Treaty. On the coast, dozens of female warriors from the 9 Snakes rushed out, pulling out the hard bows on their backs with their backhands, pulling them into a full moon. In the original work, Luffy was taken by the Big Bear of Chihuahua, and he specially photographed this man's paradise country where he practiced domineering. The leader is obviously a little older, wearing scarlet lipstick, and painted with demonic purple eyeshadow, the captain of the 9 Snake Protector of the nation, Kikyo. Immediately behind her were Margarita with short blonde hair, Aphilandora with brown hair, and others. As a nation-protecting fighter selected from among the 9 Snakes, the most basic thing is to possess the arrogance of armed and seen. However, with the passage of time, there was still no answer in the battleship, causing Kikyo's face to turn gloomy. Sister Kikyo, there seems to be only one navy inside. Margaret spoke first. One person. Kikyo was stunned at first, then suddenly raised it high and shouted sharply, no matter what. He is a person or 100 people 100, since he ignored our warning, immediately. Attack me. Fire arrows. The awe-inspiring roar fell, and the stiff bow that was pulled into a full moon instantly released. With domineering armed colors brought a stern sound of breaking through the air, and shot towards the battleship. The speed is fast and the power is strong. With the domineering blessing of the armed color, if a hit hits, it is several points stronger than the power of the musket, and it can penetrate even the thick rock slabs, not to mention the mere ship deck. Dozens of people volley. This battleship will definitely become a hornet's nest. Secondary magic triple shield. The cold voice suddenly sounded in the cab, and the 3 layers of masks of different colors were instantly opened, blocking the feather arrows falling from the sky. Accompanied by the sound of the rain hitting the bananas, it came out one after another. The first layer, the second layer, and the third layer of shields shattered one by one like a spider web mirror, and finally collapsed in the void. As for the offensive that was attacking from the sky, under this blocking, the formidable power it possessed was also inexistent, and they were all nailed to the ship's body. The sudden scene made the expressions of the 9 snake warriors stagnate for a while. When they saw the figure walking out slowly, their expressions changed drastically. This is not a human being, it is a huge skeleton bone. Go and inform Lord Hancock that some people from the Navy have broken into our 9 Snake Island. Margaret exclaimed. Chapter 363. 9 Snakes Protecting the Country. Had a lot of guesses about this uninvited guest, but they never thought that the result would be so shocking. Don't panic, our attack just now seems to be ineffective, but his strange defense method has also been penetrated. This enemy is not an existence that we can't deal with. Kikyo's face sank and shouted angrily. As the protector of the 9 snakes, if we have to trouble the Lord Hancock with any trivial matter, what kind of decency is it? Speaking of this, Kikyo's eyes turned in vain, looking at the hideous skeleton face, and shouted sharply, "Everyone obey the order, follow me to shoot this navy." Yes, the awe-inspiring words came out, and with the unanimous answer, they gathered into the sky-high fighting spirit. As the female warriors of 9 Snake Island, under the leadership of Hancock, they obviously made them fanatical about this island country. It can be said that as long as Hancock lets them die, no one will frown, and at the same time, they will shout slogans such as the Wise Lady of the Empress. Now, facing Long Yu, the long-lost offender, has obviously become an opportunity for them to express themselves. You said mine was the Navy. Long Yu walked to the deck and stopped. Looking at the estuary, the huge 9 Snake landmark building, Long Yu was also surprised that he came to this place by accident. Although, knowing that Shiryu of the Rain was playing tricks, he deliberately threw the boat here, causing him to arouse the hostility of the 9 snakes. But if you really want to say, where is the best place to learn to use domineering, then 9 Snake Island is obviously the best choice. Otherwise, in the original book, the big bear would not have been so well-intentioned and photographed Luffy in this place. However, these female warriors of the 9 snakes are currently eyeing the tiger with awe, and their murderous aura is awe-inspiring. In order to obtain an equal right of dialogue, Long Yu still needs to use some small means. You said, am I a navy? Long Yu suddenly opened his mouth, his deep-set eyes, the burning soul flame, suddenly rose, and swept over the female warriors of the 9 snakes one by one. The next moment, the awe-inspiring and cold voice that came out shook everyone's nerves. Wrong, I am the great ruler of the great tomb of Nazarick, Ains Ergong. Wait, pointing at me with this toy, is it trying to please myself? Having said that, Long Yu's eyes finally stayed on Kikyo's body, and he said sharply, in this case, why didn't you let me unilaterally be happy? That will at least save you a small life. The inexplicable words made Kikyo and the others startled at first. Looking at Long Yu's icy and indifferent attitude, facing dozens of sharp arrows, without any fear, Kikyo's face turned gloomy, and he shouted in a cold voice, Okay, very good, I will see, how do you make it? Just be happy on your own. Dare to despise, our 9 snakes protector of the country, no matter what. You are a navy, or a so-called grave man, you will also be shot into a hornet's nest. Arrow. The roars sounded one after another, and the hard bow that was fully drawn in his hand collapsed first. Bang bang bang. Dozens of them, covered with armament-colored arrogance, turned into a black rain, and attacked Long Yu head-on. Looking at this scene, Long Yu grabbed his hand a little in the void, only to realize that he was still missing a scepter, feeling that he was missing a touch of the Emperor's wind. In a brief absence, he looked up at the sharp arrows that were falling from the sky and covered the ground, shook his head and said, "It seems that you are still out of skill to please me. Then, just let me have some fun one-sidedly." The awe-inspiring voice fell, dormant, and the violent undead magic power in Long Yu's body surged like a frenzy. When the huge magic circle under his feet suddenly unfolded, and before everyone could react in the next moment, it descended 2 or 3 meters in front of Long Yu, and there was a slight stagnation in the arrow feathers in front of him. The next moment, it burst and broke. Negative burst. The awe-inspiring words, the simple 4 words were spit out, suddenly lifted, the deep-set eyes, under the flames of the burning soul. The dark undead magic power exploded like a frenzy, turning into a semicircular shield and blasting open. Bang bang bang. The feather arrows that attacked from the sky shattered in response to the negative explosion. The distance of 100 meters is only approaching in the blink of an eye. Kikyo and the others could react, the jet-black energy slammed into them with a tenacious posture. Boom! A thunderous explosion resounded through half of the Nine Snake Island, and the huge impact force directly overturned dozens of Nine Snake Island female soldiers. Wherever the negative burst passed, the rocks and trees along the way were torn to shreds like a piece of paper. Of hundreds of meters in radius was completely shrouded in it. Compared with the Shinra Tianzhong in Hokage, this attack is only a little lacking in attack power and range. However, the impact of the negative burst came and went quickly, but it disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. The sand and dust in the sky returned to calm, Kangyi was all over the land, and only the female warriors of Nine Snake Island fell to the ground. Although, the injuries on their bodies are mainly abrasions, but the negative burst is an enhanced version of the negative contact of the Bone King's innate magical powers. In addition to the shock, there is also magic paralysis. It can be said that the current Nine Snake warriors can move all over their bodies, except for their eyes, a huge part of them cannot even move their lower fingers. "You, who are you? We are the protectors of the Nine Snakes. You dare to hurt us. Once Lord Hancock finds out, you will surely die." As the captain of protecting the country, Kikyo is obviously stronger in strength and physique. Maybe it was a negative burst, but he was still able to barely support his body, staring at Long Yu with shame and anger. "Hee, I didn't expect that you can stand up, as expected of the captain of the protectorate." Long Yu chuckled and said, "I won't kill you if you make me happy, but I need some information, and you, the captain of the country, may have a hard mouth, so I can only use some small means of torture." Second-level magic tangled vine hands. Long Yu snapped his fingers, and 4 dazzling magic circles lit up under Margaret and the others who were lying on the ground. Before they could react, the vines quickly burst out of the ground, directly binding their plump bodies. Of course, I don't know if it's because of the Bone King's original wicked thinking, Long Yu let her show where it should be exposed. That bulge forward and backward, but the perfect photo. Seeing this scene, the female fighters who used to call themselves fighters blushed. "You, what are you doing? We are the protectors of the Nine Snake Island, even if we die, we won't say a word." Kikyo is also among the 4. Chapter 364. Lord Hancock. As the captain of protecting the country, the degree of stubbornness was obviously the same as Long Yu had guessed. "Hee, don't worry, as the supreme ruler of the Nazarick necropolis, I, Anzer, respectfully do what I say. You please me, and I will never kill you." Long Yu smiled coldly and said, "However, if you don't tell the truth about what I want to know, and answer, the punishment will be indispensable. Tell me if Hancock is on the Nine Snakes now." The voice of Long Yu's words was suddenly cold, the deep-set eyes, the soul-flame sword, with a heart-wrenching smell, and it was approaching Kikyo. The moment the four eyes met, Kikyo's expression suddenly became dazed. As an undead archmage, even if he doesn't cast magic, he has the ability to shock his mind just by his words and deeds. Caught off guard, Kikyo said clearly, red lips parted slightly, and said, "Lord Hancock, now. You bastard, Sister Kikyo, don't tell me that even if we die, we won't betray the secrets of the 9 snakes." Margaret was the first to exclaim, causing the absent-minded Kikyo to wake up. Looking at this scene, the soul flame in Longyu's eyes suddenly returned to normal, and he looked around the field coldly and said, "It seems that as the supreme being, I am still too kind." Second-level magic countless vine tentacles. Dang dang. The sound of the magic circle lighting up one after another. One by one mysterious magic circles lit up under each female warrior of the 9 snakes. Before they could react, they were instantly tied into Zongzi. What are you going to do?" Kikyo's complexion changed suddenly. They were still able to be tough just a moment ago, but they all fell into Longyu's hands instantly. To be tied up in such a humiliating manner is simply shameful to them. "What am I going to do?" With soul flames swept over each of the 9 snake female warriors one by one, and said, "Of course it is to punish you. If you don't answer, then you can only fight." Voice fell, Longyu's pale skeleton finger picked up, and the vine tentacles tied to them crazily entangled, turning into a big human hand. Before Kikyo and the others could react, he threw them on their ass. Slap! The crisp slaps sounded in unison, and the body was stiff, and then twisted restlessly. It seemed to make the big vine hand even more crazy. Without any fancy, one after another, the scene turned into a passionate symphony in an instant. "Ah, you rascal, dare to hit us, let us go quickly. Otherwise, Lord Hancock will never let you go." Kikyo's cheeks were congested. Biting her red lips tightly, she hurriedly twisted her body, trying to break free. However, this vine tentacle, unless it can break free with great force. Otherwise, the more you struggle, the stronger the restraint will gradually tighten. Looking at the female warrior of 9 snakes who was still stubborn, Longnai shook her head and said coldly, "It seems that I am still too kind. If this can't make you speak, then let me see your stubbornness, and me means, who is tougher." Vine tentacles. The awe-inspiring words came out in a hurry, and vines shot out one after another, and at this moment, like an explosion, they grew wildly. Dozens, hundreds of numbers, densely packed. If they are really thrown down together, the consequences will probably be extremely sour. Witnessing this scene, the female warrior of 9 snakes, blushing cheeks, turned pale all of a sudden. "If this is over, I am afraid that it will have to change from a girl to a woman." However, before they could react, 2 huge black shadows, like tigers and leopards, rushed out of the jungle behind them. The speed is so fast that there are only afterimages left along the way. Snake dance. Snake. 2 icy squeaks sounded, and the afterimage slid past the crowd entwined with vines like a snake. Wherever he passed, the sharp blade of cold light that fluttered in his hand, like a flexible poisonous snake, cut off the vines tied to his body directly. A short period of 7 or 8, after resting, the group of female warriors protecting the country reacted, and 2 huge snake-like bodies stopped in front of them. A tall and flat figure, standing on a huge poisonous snake, surrounded by the crowd, strewn with petals, and walked out of the dense forest. If Longyu remembers correctly, this woman is probably the ruler of 9 Snake Island, known as the Empress, Poya Hancock. "It's Lord Hancock, she's finally here. I didn't expect Lord Hancock to become more and more beautiful. With Lord Hancock's shot, he will be able to take this hateful guy easily. God, I'm going to faint, I can't hold it every time." The strange cry of a nympho rang out one after another, making Longyu suddenly interested. The deep-set eyes, the jumping soul flame, turned in vain and landed on Hancock's body. To be said that the Empress, who was 1.91 meters tall, with her long skirt with deep slits under her fluffy cloak, still cannot hide her proud figure. As over 100, the waist is 60, and the lower body is 90. Coupled with the slender, snow-white, long legs like suet and white jade, it simply gives people a feeling of heartbeat. Rao is the soul flame in Long Yu's eyes, and it also jumps slightly, as if in a heartbeat. However, as soon as these emotional fluctuations appeared, they were eliminated by the Bone King's own skills and negative emotions. It's really ugly. You dare to spread wildly on your concubine's territory. Did your navy forget the Chihuahua Treaty we signed? Under Hancock's feet stopped after more than 10 meters from the coast. The feather fan in his hand, he said proudly with his pretty face half covered. Lord Hancock, it's so domineering, I'm in love. God, if I could kneel and lick in front of Lord Hancock's feet, I would too. Come on, let's all stand up, don't lose the face of Lord Hancock, or we won't even have the chance to love. The voice of the nympho, wave after wave, can be called a symphony of madness. Looking at some protector of the country whose eyes even turned into heart-shaped, Long Yu became more and more calm. He knew that this was probably the sweet fruit that Hancock possessed, with its own charm. You Navy, why don't you talk, since you don't have a long memory and ignore the contract made by your concubine, then die for me. Hancock's face sank, obviously feeling rude to Long Yu's ignorance. Lower back turned over, showing a difficult 90-degree, and when the right foot was lifted, half of the beautiful leg was exposed, and a cold and arrogant voice came out rashly. In this world, no matter whatever you have done, the world will forgive you, but for your ignorance and arrogance, repent in the stone. Chapter 365. This secret cannot be discovered. Sweet and sweet. Hancock clasped his hands together and put on a loving gesture. The pink girl's rays of light bloomed, and the sky suddenly turned pink. Dang dang. The little pink peach heart in the sky, spanning dozens of meters, shot directly towards Long Yu's body. So fast, it's there in the blink of an eye. However, before they could be happy, the pink peach heart, like rain hitting a plantain, hit the steel plate, and was thrown out. Seeing the violent scene, all the female warriors protecting the country, and even the 3 Hancock sisters, were also stunned. In their eyes, no matter what, who is the other party, as long as there is a shock in his heart, he will definitely become petrified. Hee, it seems that your methods are as fancy as your appearance, but for the deity, it doesn't seem to be of any use. Long Yu laughed dryly. As an undead archmage, the Bone King has the ability to be immune to mental attacks, and at the same time, the trace of restlessness that appeared just now was also eliminated by the negative emotions of the skill. It can be said that facing the petrification of sweet fruits, it does not work on Long Yu at all. What an arrogant person, I will see today, what kind of confidence do you have to dare to run wild on 9 Snake Island? Hancock's pretty face sank, and the moment he started drinking. The 2 fingers are a little on the red lips, the pink peach heart mark quickly emerges, and the index finger is a little bit on the peach heart, turning into a pistol posture. Kiss gun. Bang bang bang. The moment the index finger pointed to Long Yu, the pink peach heart, like a bullet, shot out frantically. Facing this scene, in Long Yu's deep-set eyes, the flames of his soul soared, and the crackling thunder light exploded like a frenzy. The next moment, with the help of the Bone King's body, Long Yu instantly entered the lay-done chakra mode. However, this kind of power borrowed from the ontology and the character template can only be supported for a minute or two. Just in this situation, everything is enough. Bang! The big foot of the skeleton suddenly stepped on, and the dragon feather disappeared in place like a thunderlight. The incoming peach heart strafing shattered the hull deck of the battleship in an instant, and it failed directly. Seeing this violent scene, the expressions of Sonia and Marigold suddenly changed, and they shouted anxiously, "Sister, be careful behind your back." Fragrant feet. As a first-time powerhouse on 9 Snake Island, Hancock not only understands the 3-color domineering, but also hones it to the extreme. Without any bells and whistles, when he turned over, his slender right foot swept straight behind him like a long whip. Iron block. Boom. The thunderous collision sound resounded suddenly. The splashing thunder light ripped apart the surrounding ground, and even some trees were cut in the middle, and a large amount of sand was thrown up. Snake dance. Flame zombie. This scene, Sonia and Marigold suddenly became violent. The two control the animal system at the same time, the snake and snake fruit ability. Among them Sonia is a python person, and Marigold is a cobra person. As soon as the huge and ugly body unfolded, the hair on its head instantly transformed into dozens or hundreds of poisonous snakes, and without the slightest hesitation, they attacked Long Yu in the air. Two made a move. It was obvious that they formed an airtight encirclement, completely blocking Long Yu's retreat, which was enough to show that they had rich combat experience. Originally, I planned to be gentle and have a good talk with you, but now it seems that it is better to put soldiers first, then courtesy, and then benevolence and righteousness. Long Yu sighed helplessly. The moment when the voice fell, the flame of the soul suddenly soared, and under the eyes of the public, the hands clasped together. Under the frenzied thunder light and the backlog of frantic gathering, without any fancy, it slammed down towards the ground below. Recurrent storm. Boom! A thunderous explosion resounded. The backlog of violent power poured down instantly, and splashed away with a tenacious posture. The ground with the dragon feather as the center collapsed in an instant. The three Hancock sisters, who were close at hand, bore the brunt of being swallowed up by the endless lightning. The resulting shock wave quickly spread around. Bang bang bang! The rewinding thunder light rolled and swept the entire coast, and the female warrior who was in the middle of the country was also swallowed up before she could let out a scream. After a full 7 or 8 seconds, the thunder light from the sky dissipated, and Long Yu was still standing in the deep pit with the attitude of the Bone King. Huge battle circle. In addition to Hancock, who was standing 7 or 8 meters half-bent in a bit of embarrassment, the two younger sisters were also attacked by surprise and fell directly to the ground. Black smoke. Who was farther away? She was obviously not so dizzy, and fell to the ground in a coma. You bastard, if you dare to do such a ruthless attack on a concubine, I will kill you. Hancock's pretty face turned cold, and he planned to storm Long Yu again. However, before she could make a move, Sonia and Marigold, who had fallen to the ground, suddenly stood up. However, what Hancock saw was not their bravery. The contrary, the clothes that had been stretched to the point of bursting because of the transformation, were obviously burned under the heavy current. With a slight movement, it tore open like a piece of paper, revealing the huge back. The violent scene made Hancock's face turn pale. For her, there is nothing more humiliating than a secret that has been kept for more than 10 years. Sonia, Mary, the clothes behind you. Hancock exclaimed anxiously and forgot to attack. The violent attacks of Sonia and Marigold were delayed at first, and the next moment did not wait for them to react, due to the excessive movement. The clothes on his body were torn apart in response, and the imprint of the flying dragon's hoof, which was originally concealed by them, symbolized the dragon's hoof belonging to the Tianlong people, and appeared in front of Long Yu's eyes. Hancock, what happened? We are here to support you. Lord Hancock, here we come. Who is it that dares to disturb Lord Hancock? Bathe and change clothes, he will be cursed by Gorgon and become a fossil. One after another, the honorable cries came from all directions in the jungle. The dense footsteps, and the increasing number of people in the perception of domineering, made Hancock panic all of a sudden. As a dignified pirate queen, at this moment, she was at a loss like a little girl. No, no, this secret can't be discovered. What shall I do? What shall I do? Hancock was in a hurry. Now, she not only has to worry about how to help Sonia and Marigold hide the secrets on their backs. More still, how to prevent Long Yu from telling this secret. After seeing Long Yu's strange and unusual methods with his own eyes, Hancock had no confidence that he could stop Long Yu's mouth in a short period of time. Chapter 366. Remove the slave mark. My sister is here. Sonia exclaimed anxiously. 3 of them turned their gazes together, and locked on the mother-in-law who came out of the jungle first. The moment she looked flustered, she heard a faint sigh. Well, although I also have a sense of shame and don't like being too explicit, I'm still too kind. Long Yu shook his head, and immediately threw the demon parasitic cloak behind him with his backhand. Split. PFF'd. The parasitic cloak of the demon world, the moment it was raised, immediately detached from Long Yu's body and lost the wrapping of the cloak. Long Yu's current posture is simply a piece of cloth without an inch of thread all over his body. That appearance is too blatant. However, as soon as the demon world parasitic cloak floated in midair, it suddenly made a sound of fabric tearing, and it suddenly split into two parts. Of the three Hancock sisters, they entangled Sonia and Marigold. This scene fell into the eyes of the mother-in-law, although she didn't know what happened, but she instantly smelled something unusual. The crutches in his hand slammed down towards the ground, and shouted coldly, "You all go back, Hancock is meeting the distinguished guests." As these words fell, those noisy footsteps also stopped. Seeing this scene, the three Hancock sisters breathed a sigh of relief. La also breathed a sigh of relief. After looking at Hancock and the three of them, when her eyes fell on Long Yu, her pupils shrank slightly and said, "As the devil fruit-capable person a navy." Navy. Long Yu regained his senses, shook his head with a smile and said, "Hee, I misunderstood me, we are all pirates, but when we came, we snatched a warship. Originally, I just came here by accident, but looking at them, I just thought of a good deal." Listening to the first half of the speech, when Hancock and the others' expressions changed slightly, the second half made their nerves suddenly tense. Hancock was the first to lose his temper and said, "You arrogant, your concubine is so beautiful, no matter what. Will be forgiven no matter what, and we have no intention of letting you leave alive." Although, Long Yu just helped Sonia and Marie Groud to cover up the marks of the heavenly dragons on their backs. But it doesn't mean that Hancock is willing to let those who know this secret leave alive. At the same time, let alone, Long Yu intends to use this mark to trade with them. "Hancock, don't be impulsive," exclaimed anxiously and said, "Looking at your tone, you should also be a young man. Now that you know this secret, why can't it be rotten in your heart?" "Rotten in my heart." Long Yu gave a dry laugh and said, "Whoever said that I wanted to threaten, could it be that he has no patience? Listen to me and finish what I have to say. If I can help you permanently remove the imprint of the slaves on your back, but the premise is that you must teach me the method of three-color domineering practice." In the main body, with the instant full-level system, Long Yu knew very well that the most basic thing to gain a foothold in this world was to master domineering. Otherwise, if you encounter a natural devil fruit person, it is often unilaterally abused. What did you say?" Han Xian couldn't hold back any longer. It can be said that Tianlong, people's slave mark, like an invisible big hand, clenched their hearts tightly. Even sleeping at night, outside Hancock's palace, it is also inside and outside. 3-story guards, and 2 younger sisters are needed to guard the gate. With such a strong line of defense, Hancock is afraid that if he falls asleep, the secret on his back will be discovered. "When I was young, I couldn't find a suitable doctor, and after I became famous, I didn't want anyone to see the marks on my back." Most importantly, for Hancock, once the slave mark is forcibly removed, the beautiful back like suet and white jade will leave ugly scars. This is absolutely not allowed. After all, to a certain extent, the ability of the sweet fruit needs to be extremely confident in its own beauty, reaching the level of arrogance, before it can be fully exerted. If you have a pimple in your heart, always think about an ugly scar on your back. Under the ability of that sweet fruit, I am afraid it will be greatly reduced. Don't worry, the means I have are painless and traceless treatment. In order to express my sincerity, I will show you first and show you my confidence." Long Yu laughed dryly, obviously guessing what Hancock was thinking. His eyes turned in vain, and fell on the female warriors who were lying on the ground in a coma, and snapped her fingers with her right hand. 3-level magic group cure. Level 3 magic mass healing. Dang, The sound of the magic circle unfolding suddenly echoed. The blue light, under Long Yu's feet, quickly bloomed. The next moment, the magic power that surged out instantly exploded, turning into a beam of light that shot straight above the 9 heavens. Before Hancock and the others could react, the blue magic power instantly turned into a smoky drizzle, drifting down against the sea breeze. Seeing this strange scene, Hancock and the others were startled at first. However, when they reacted, the scattered blue drizzle made them feel like they were bathing in a hot spring. That kind of comfortable feeling, like a crisp numbness, the numbness and stinging pain caused by the battle just now, like a heavy torrent, were attacked by strong thunder quickly dissipated. The most unbelievable thing is that even Granny Zaw's pale old face, like withered tree bark, has gradually become ruddy and bloody. What the hell is going on here? The scars on my face are gone. Oh my god, the blood on my chest is gone. No, the freckles on my face are gone. Of exclamations echoed in the field. Looking at the female national protector who had fallen unconscious, she suddenly became alive and well as before. Hancock's 3 people 3, the pupils shrunk slightly. Hee, this is my sincerity, you don't have to decide in a hurry, or arrange a place for me first, I don't mind. Long Yu laughed dryly, and the soul flame in his eyes turned in vain, facing Hancock. The sudden remark made a group of female warriors who were still immersed in surprises react suddenly. The head of Kikyo's face sank, he waved his hand, and shouted, "Everyone obeys the order, surrounds this madman, and assists Lord Hancock to take action." Yes, to read the novel without underline. Chapter 367, Stronger Wood. A group of female warriors who protect the country have not yet figured out the situation in front of them. However, in the matter of Hancock, in their admiration, everything needs no reason. However, before they could act, the crutches clenched in the hands of the grandmother on the side suddenly stomped on the ground and said, "Stop, before Hancock has made a decision, no one should act rashly. Why didn't we monitor him first? Speaking of which, my mother-in-law couldn't help but look at Hancock." However, if there was no accident, the first thing that caught her eye was the big beautiful legs that flew over. Bang! My mother-in-law was kicked and flew, and she turned around 7 or 8, and finally stopped after a fight. However, in the face of this kind of elder abuse, my mother-in-law is obviously used to it. After all, in the original book, she was thrown from the window on the castle by Hancock, and she was able to exist unscathed. Moreover, as the previous queen of 9 Snake Island, the strength of this old woman is definitely not simple. After finishing all this, Hancock glanced at Long Yu and said coldly, "HMPH, it's time to take a shower and change clothes, and block the entire castle for the concubine." Leaving these words, Salome, the pet snake who was still enjoying the healing rain, swam over quickly, tame Hancock, and quickly headed towards the castle. Sonia and Marigold, who witnessed this scene, relaxed their tense nerves. Not to mention, whether Long Yu can really wash away the slave mark on their backs. Just the scene just now, if Long Yu leaked it, the female warrior who protects the country will know. That's definitely not a good thing. Now that Hancock can temporarily agree to the transaction, it also makes them relieved. "Why, mother-in-law, are you okay?" After Sonia helped her mother-in-law up, she looked back at Long Yu and said, "Sister, I have to take a bath now. As usual, we will arrange for you to wait outside the palace. As for the time, I don't know." Since Hancock became the Empress of 9 Snake Island, every bath was a laborious effort to block the entire palace, in order to prevent the secrets on his back from being leaked. "Hee, don't be so troublesome, I'll just wait in the palace, your sister will meet me soon, and she will agree to a deal." Long Yu laughed dryly and said, "Also, prepare me some food." A series of battles and a day and night of sailing, this naval warship, because it is stationed in the advanced city prison all the year round, does not need to go out to sea to perform tasks. There was no food at all except for some fresh water on the huge ship. If it wasn't for Shiryu of the Rain, who was abandoned on the Nine Snakes Island by mistake. I'm afraid Long Yu would have had to cut off his own legs just like Zapu's bare feet. Sonia was suddenly late. Hancock blocked the palace to prevent the secret from being leaked. Long Yu already knew the secret. Blocking the palace is optional for him. Moreover, from the standpoint of Sonia and Marigold, although it is not clear whether Long Yu can really do it. But in the face of being able to get rid of the perennial nightmare, they are still eager to see that Hancock really agreed to try. Let him in, I'll talk to Hancock alone later. The mother-in-law patted the dust on her body, glanced at it, and Long Yu said, if you don't mind, the old man is willing to show you the way. Hee, if your mother-in-law welcomes you, of course I would, then I'll be troublesome. Long Yu laughed dryly and said, however, I would take the liberty to ask if there is any solid wood nearby. I need to build something. Mother-in-law couldn't help being startled by the relatively sturdy wood, but she didn't refuse Long Yu's optional request, and pointed to a black iron-colored tree trunk that would take several adults to embrace, said, this is the 9-layer ironwood unique to our Nine Snake Island. The quality is heavier and tougher than the same iron. Our arrows are also made of this thing. I don't know if it can meet your requirements. Ironwood. The soul flame in Long Yu's eyes flashed, and after the character template of Ains or Gong was activated. He was clearly subconsciously accustomed to possessing the Emperor's symbolic scepter. Right now, he is idle and has nothing to do, and Long Yu also wants to gain more power by imitating the Bone King in the original book, so it is also very good to get a scepter. Thinking about it, Long Yu approached Tiamu, tapped lightly for a few times, and after making a dull sound, nodded with satisfaction, and said, can you lend me the knife? My naginata. Marigold couldn't help but startled, and said, my naginata weighs several hundred kilograms, and this ironwood requires special means to be tempered. If you plan to use the naginata to chop it down, I'm afraid you will do it. Not. Mary, give him the naginata to try, the stinky man won't understand unless he hits the wall. Sonia said in a low voice. However, I still have to let you know in advance that to cut off this ironwood, even Mary needs to use high-intensity armament to do it. In Sonia's eyes, Long Yu's strength is very good. However, the deal just proposed has proved that he doesn't even grasp the domineering aura of armament. Under this premise, it would be impossible for Long Yu to cut off a tree stump whose material is comparable to iron if he just relies on brute force. Yeah, that's just for me to try. Long Yu smiled dryly, and took Marie Goruder's naginata. Looking at Tiamu in front of him, the soul flame in his eyes suddenly soared. The crackling thunder light quickly rolled away from the body. Lay done chakra mode. The fight just now took a lot of time to use the body, the chakra and the crossbody. But to chop down a piece of iron wood, it is still more than excellent. Accompanied by thunder light, frantically poured into the naginata sword, and a sharp and harsh air vibration sound suddenly sounded. That naginata seemed unbearable. This huge thunder attribute chakra let out a whimper. Long Yu's pair of big skeleton hands suddenly clenched tightly, and his backhand slashed down towards Tiamu Li. Ultrasonic shock thunder escape knife. This is the method that Yutai Renju Riki Rabbi has. Infuse Lei Dun chakra on the knife to enhance the sharpness of the knife. The high-frequency vibration wave is induced by the thunderbolt, which makes it have a penetrating power that surpasses that of the wind tunnel. In the original book, when Karabi was fighting the ghost shark, he used a pencil to penetrate the rock directly. PFF'd. As soon as the knife came out, a large ripple appeared in the air, and the naginata, which was wrapped around the thunder light, slashed down instantly. Bang! The dull collision sound resounded like thunder, and the big tree surrounded by several people responded with a slash in two pieces. Sonia and the others, who witnessed this scene, suddenly shrank their pupils, and their faces were full of disbelief. However, before they could ask questions, the naginata sword wrapped in thunderlight in Long Yu's hand suddenly stagnated and flew up like a dragon. Chapter 368, Lifting the Fruit Ability. The huge ironwood fell into Long Yu's hands, and like tofu, the surface was directly cut off. After everyone reacted, the ironwood that several people could embrace, only the heart of the tree more than 1 meter high remained. Long Yu waited for a second, and then showed a look of satisfaction. Okay, thank you Naginata, if there is nothing else, help me prepare a place to stay, I still need to take care of this thing. Right now, Long Yu was eager to increase his own strength, and imitating an Ains or Gong scepter was obviously a shortcut. As for what rewards can be obtained, for Long Yu, there is also a little more hope. Sonia, he will be handed over to me. You should report to Hancock first. The mother-in-law retracted the shock on her face and commanded. In Hancock's eyes, her mother-in-law didn't get the slightest respect. However, Sonia and Marigold still respect this elder. To a certain extent, it is still the think tank of their Nine-Snake Island. Sonia, after taking one more look at Long Yu, turned around and left with Marigold without further lingering. With the return of Hancock, the gates of the palace were quickly closed, the guardrails were erected, and the whole country entered the first level of martial law directly. However, the only difference this time was that Sonia and Marigold, who were guarding the door, hurried to the bathroom. Sister, have you started bathing and changing? Sonia arrived in the bathroom. She saw a figure in the bath shrouded in steam. This has not happened at all in the past 10 years. Every time Hancock bathes and changes clothes, any link is indispensable. In particular, the gates must be guarded by them. However, now things are abnormal, but there must be a demon. Thank you for your hard work. Hancock spoke suddenly, which immediately flattered Sonia and Marigold. Sister, you are serious, it's just how the guy handled it. Just now, he didn't show his arrogance, so he easily split the ironwood. In addition to the ability of animal-type phantom beasts, it seems that they also know how to control lightning, which gives people a very mysterious feeling. Sonia explained eagerly. Hancock was silent for a while, and then said, "Let him come to see me. No matter what. Believe it or not, but you should also have the opportunity to try and erase painful memories." In front of outsiders, Hancock is a proud queen, but in the face of the two sisters who depend on each other, there is another side. Hee, it seems that you are not stone-hearted. Indifferent laughter suddenly sounded. Hancock's trio's expressions all of a sudden followed the voice, and the first thing that caught the eye was the dragon feather in the posture of white bones. Just that the dragon feather that appeared this time has a scepter wrapped around a golden poisonous snake in his hand. Gem in every bluff sheku, giving people a lifelike feeling. They were in a state of uncertainty just now, and they were still talking at the same time. But because of the habit, during the bath, Hancock will display all-round vigilance, and the two sisters are no exception. It can be said that the moment before, Long Yu was still in the room they were monitoring. Now, why, in the blink of an eye, appeared here unexpectedly, beyond their expectations. Don't be nervous, I'm a timid person, so when you guys spy on me with your arrogance and domineering, I also use some tactics. Keep a mind and monitor your every move. Long Yu smiled and clenched the scepter in his hand. For the character template of the Bone King, caution, and timidity are the most basic manifestations. Long Yu wants to improve the fidelity of the character template, which is absolutely essential. Looking at Sonia and Marigold with a hint of anger on their faces, Long Yu instead turned his attention to Hancock, who was looming in the steam. Don't be angry, didn't you decide to let me get rid of the imprint of the Tianlong people? For the doctor, ketone bodies are just passing by, beauty is just pink skeletons, and everything is empty. Long Yu smiled and spoke again. You all take off your clothes. No, it's better to take off your shirt and reveal the imprint of the Tianlong people's slave. Looking at Sonia and Marigold, they looked far different from the Empress Hancock. Long Yu really has a kind. I doubt whether the two younger sisters were born by the old king next door, otherwise they would not be very different. Listening to Long Yu's slightly excessive request, if it were normal, they would have already attacked violently. But this time it was a deal, and Long Yu's request became, not too much. Thinking of this, Sonia and Marigold looked at each other and looked at Hancock. Take it all off. Take it all off. Hancock glanced at Long Yu and said lightly, if you dare to deceive your concubine, no matter what. Wherever you flee, your concubine will kill you. Speaking, Hancock looked at the pet snake Salome. Soon, Salome immediately. Knowing, wearing a silky thin bathrobe on his head, he quickly swam towards Hancock. Taking the yukata from Salome, Hancock didn't evade at all, and put his back on Long Yu. After all, as a pirate who is used to seeing big waves and is known as the Empress, if you are cautious because of this trivial matter, you will hide in front of others. This is a shame. After doing all this, Hancock sat on the steps with his back to Long Yu, his fragrant shoulders flicked, and the gauze yukata on his back slipped off, revealing the imprint of the flying dragon's hoof on his back. The half-exposed scene made Long Yu, who had an unusually calm will after using the Bone King template, jump out of negative emotions one after another, so that he could remain calm. Of course, if there were no two meat mountains next to Hancock, who sat down one after another, Long Yu would think that this beautiful scenery would be more pleasing to the eye. If you don't hurry up or do it, you just lied to the Empress. Hancock spoke coldly, but the blush on his cheeks obviously betrayed her current thoughts. Long Yu quickly reacted in the negative elimination, and said with a dry smile, I'm just thinking of a faster and more convenient way to treat you. After all, I believe that you are not used to this attitude. Let me remove the fruit ability first. Regarding the so-called treatment method, Long Yu was just trying to cover up the careful thoughts just now. Of one piece, this removal surgery may leave scars. But in the face of the medical ninjutsu in Hokage, let alone a small wound, even if the body is broken in two, as long as it does not die, it can be connected without leaving the slightest scar. However, facing Long Yu's careful thoughts, they understood that they were attracted by Long Yu's second half of his words. From the first meeting, until now, Long Yu showed them the attitude of the Bone King. Now that the so-called devil fruit ability was lifted, they were startled for a moment, and then their pupils suddenly contracted. Chapter 369, Too Color Domineering. Too young. In their eyes, Long Yu has such powerful fighting skills and negotiation skills. He is definitely an old fox who has been in the sea for a long time. However, the feeling that Long Yu gave them now was like 17 or 18 years old, like the taste of the boy next door. Compared with the terrifying skeleton demon posture just now, the gap is too great. Okay, let's start. Long Yu was the first to come behind Sonia and Marigold. The most beautiful things, of course, should be reserved for the last to taste. As for the two in front of them, they still closed their eyes and let the dragons go out to sea. The sudden scene obviously tensed the nerves of Hancock's three people. For Long Yu's choice, Hancock was stunned at first, and when her red lips lightly opened, her pupils contracted suddenly when she entered the scene. I saw Long Yu lightly press the backs of Sonia and Marigold with both hands, and the light blue medical chakra rushed out quickly, covering the flying dragon hoof marks directly. However, before they could react, the scarlet mark, under Hancock's astonished eyes, melted like a tide, and disappeared without a trace in an instant. The skin seemed to be bleached, and even Hancock couldn't help rubbing his eyes. Sister, has he started? I feel a little itchy. As the three sisters, Marigold is the largest and the most sturdy. However, in the face of this situation, there was a shy look on his face. Sonia on the side didn't speak, but she couldn't help looking at Hancock, and the words that fell in her ears shook their nerves. It's over, it's over. It's over, it's over. Marigold and Sonia looked stagnant. They didn't have time to think about it. They hurried to the full-length mirror and checked it out. When he saw clearly the picture reflected in the mirror, his pupils also contracted suddenly. This ride is too fast. In their eyes, it is over before it begins. If you don't see it with your own eyes, no one wants to believe it. To me. Seeing this scene, even Hancock couldn't help but get excited. For her, the celestial dragon slave mark on her back is a lingering nightmare. Now that it can be eliminated in an instant, that is completely unimaginable. Long Yu replied, looking at the jade back that was as smooth as suet and white jade. He took a deep breath, and after stabilizing his mind, he gently put his backhand on it. The silky smoothness and warmth of the hand made Long Yu a pick. However, compared with him, Hancock, who has always claimed to be the Empress, was even more intense. He didn't know whether it was because of excitement or other reasons, and even his body trembled slightly. Who was blushing and biting his red lips like a little girl, Long Yu once again stabilized his mind. With the chakra running, the blue light lit up. The slave mark of the dragon man that day faded quickly at a speed visible to the naked eye. When Long Yu pulled his hand back, the time between the front and back was only 7 or 8 seconds. That's it. Is it all right? Hancock bit his red lips and muttered. The next moment, the whole person collapsed to the ground as if he had lost his strength, and the grievances that had accumulated in his eyes over the years turned into hot tears. The slight sobbing sound, at that moment, made the appearance of Sonia and Mary, who were equally tough. Groud, too, couldn't hold back and burst into tears. Looking at the situation where even the atmosphere changed suddenly, Long Yu reluctantly touched the tip of his nose and looked at Hancock. He suddenly remembered something. After leaving Naruto World, it seems that the head-to-head kill has not been used. Looking at Hancock, the usually proud head is now buried between his knees, sobbing constantly. Long Yu sighed helplessly, and gently rubbed Hancock's head with his probing hand, and said, "It's all over, you can wear backless clothes in the future, and you don't need to take a bath. Live well, it belongs to your girl. Well, it should be a girl." These words, the black mist on Long Yu's body rolled back, and soon the template of the Bone King was activated again. At the moment when the portal opened, it disappeared into place out of thin air. The girl Hancock's expression couldn't help but stagnate, and when she raised her head, there was no longer the figure of Long Yu. "Boy, it seems that you have already done things. I thought that if you entered the bathroom rashly, you would be hunted out," the grandmother said with a dry smile. Long Yu rolled his eyes, and the hidden old woman said, "You should be two-colored and domineering, now it's time for you to fulfill your promise." Double-color domineering. Mother-in-law was startled at first, and said, "Boy, are you really joking? You don't even understand the domineering two colors." In the eyes of my mother-in-law, although the time with Long Yu was very short. After hearing about the battles that took place on the coast, and seeing with her own eyes, Long Yu's endless methods, with her decades of experience across the sea, she still couldn't see through the young man in front of her. Listening to these questioning words, Long Yu reluctantly touched the tip of his nose. In the world of One Piece, the sea is divided into 3 parts. The first is the 4 major sea areas, the second is the first half of the Great Channel, and the third is the second half of the Great Channel. Among them, in the first half of the Great Channel, once there are pirates with a reward of over 100 million, they will be called Nova. Once you want to enter the second half of the Great Waterway, the most basic thing to master is not the devil fruit, but the two-color domineering. Right now, the strength displayed by Long Yu is obviously not something that the pirates in the first half can possess, so if the pirates in the second half, the two-color domineering and domineering should be a must. Really not, otherwise it won't take a lot of trouble, let's trade with you. Granny Za, who had a questioning look on her face and wished to tear herself apart to see clearly, Long Yu gave a white look and explained. Really not. The mother-in-law insisted on asking one more time, and after seeing Long Yu still nodding, the withered bark-like cheeks gradually loosened, and said, "You are really stupid, you can't even know this, and I don't know where you came from. Come. However, for the sake of helping Hancock and the others, I will tell you the use and concept of two-color domineering." As she said that, my mother-in-law put the crutches in her hand aside, her turbid old eyes suddenly condensed, and the whole person's breath was different. It can be said that the old man who can have friendship with the legendary pirates such as Rayleigh and Shachi is definitely not a simple person. Domineering is actually a kind of willpower in the human body, and it is similar to the development of the brain, but to control the domineering of armed and knowledgeable, there are two ways. First, through systematic training, open the brain's limitations, and second, accidentally turned on. The mother-in-law explained in a deep voice. The dry right hand suddenly slid down, and the dark, ink-like armament color spread quickly, covering the arm directly. Gives a metallic feel. Chapter 370. Report jailbreak data. This is armed arrogance. Next, I'm going to demonstrate the arrogance of seeing and hearing. Along with Granny Za's opinion, Long Yu's mind also formed a systematic cognition of the two-color domineering. Ding dong, congratulations to the host who has acquired the two-color domineering, is it right now? Make an instant full level. The long-lost system ethereal voice suddenly sounded, making Long Yu secretly relieved. I just listened to a lecture from my mother-in-law. However, everyone's understanding of domineering is completely different. Long Yu is still stuck in a half-understanding, and even the clues are not clear. Now, as soon as the system makes a move, it will be captured. How can Long Yu not feel happy? Immediately. Make an instant full level. Ding dong, please wait a moment, host. Ding dang, congratulations to the host of the two-color domineering instant full level success. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining high-level armament color domineering use method Sakura flow. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining the use of advanced knowledge and domineering, predicting the future. Sound of the system prompts made Long Yu frown, but he was not surprised. Boy, are you paying attention? Mother-in-law suddenly stepped on Long Yu's feet. However, before she could fall, Long Yu pulled back in advance like a prophet. The sudden scene made the mother-in-law froze in shock. Mother-in-law, I learned. Long Yu regained his senses, and there was a smile on his face. The critical moment just now, Long Yu didn't show his arrogance. But once the domineering and attainments have reached a certain level, as long as they encounter something that damages themselves, the domineering will give an early warning in time. Just now, Long Yu had just obtained the full-level arrogance and domineering, but he didn't expect it to come in handy so quickly. However, seeing the domineering and domineering, there are also two huge weaknesses. First, once the speed of the enemy is faster than your warning speed, even if you can predict the future, you may not be able to react. Second, emotions can easily affect the use of arrogance and domineering. Once absolute calm cannot be maintained, the accuracy of predicting the future will be greatly reduced, or it will fail directly. Learned. The mother-in-law's expression was stagnant, and she soon saw Long Yu. In the deep-set eyes, the soul flame suddenly soared, and the black and ink-like armament color quickly spread across her arms. Made Grandma Za's pupils shrink suddenly, the color of the arms on Long Yu's arms, and it was flowing like water. This is Liu Ying, this is high-level armed arrogance. Mother-in-law suddenly came back to her senses and said, You kid, you really pretended to be a pig and eat a tiger from the very beginning. It turns out that you have mastered even the high-level domineering, and even let the old man show you a demonstration, but I will lose my old face. Looking at the unhappy mother-in-law, Long touched the tip of his nose. He knew that at the system level, it was impossible to explain clearly. Simply avoided this topic, said. Mother-in-law, will you be domineering? Among the three colors of domineering, the domineering color of the overlord is the symbol of the king who is chosen in a million miles. Long was not sure if he had it too. Domineering and domineering. Why did my mother-in-law startle for a moment, and said, You brat, are you planning to play with me again? You are overbearing and domineering, but you are a natural symbol of a king. I don't understand. As for Hancock's domineering arrogance, it was trained by the old man Rayleigh. If you want to fool him, just fool him. However, I want to tell you in advance, that old man, but Roger's deputy, for the sake of helping Hancock, I will give. You write a letter of introduction, as for whether or not you have a tyrannical arrogance, that is your business. Abandoning these words, Grandma picked up the pen and paper on the table, and after writing a letter, she looked nervously at Long Yudao. Boy, I still don't believe that you can instantly learn two-color high-level domineering. Tell me, did you deliberately approach Hancock? Actually, Hancock was originally a good girl. Although she has been in the hands of the Tianlong people for several years, the Tianlong people only enslaved and fought for fun for slaves. Speaking of which, my mother-in-law's cheeks turned slightly red. She coughed dryly, and said, they don't care about it at all, and we have nothing to do with ordinary people, and I'll tell you secretly that when I found Hancock, I even checked it out. She's still there. Boy, you're lucky, or stay on Nine Snake Island and become a son-in-law, so that these girls with stone heads understand what a man's love is. Listening to this, and talking carelessly, Long Yu suddenly turned to stone. He never thought that the misunderstanding of learning domineering would evolve to this level. Not even mentioning that, kiss gun. The icy yelping sound resounded suddenly. The pink peach heart that came violently poured out like a machine gun, and Long Yu, who witnessed this scene, was helpless. Where the domineering and domineering are prevalent, it is simply a wall with ears. At the same time, the Navy headquarters. The huge conference room looks extremely depressing, no matter what. Was a general, a lieutenant general or a major general, their eyes were all shocked by the information on the table that they brought back from the city university prison. Kazuna, have these news been confirmed? Of the warring states tapping on the table stopped abruptly, and his eyes turned to focus on Kizaru. In Magellan's briefing, it was learned that the dignified General Kizaru was hit by a heavy blow and fell into the sea. Warring states can't wait to strangle Kizaru. However, it is also confirmed from the side that the person who created the prison escape this time is not simple. This is the data given by Magellan. Kizaru's eyes twitched slightly. As soon as the events of that day spread in the Navy headquarters, his face couldn't hold back. However, in this situation, he still has to bite the bullet and report. According to the calculation, this jailbreak operation involved a total of 6 floors of the Advanced City University prison, and the number of deaths reached 968. 968, most of which were buried in the attack of Uchiha Ryu. There are a total of 68 people who have successfully escaped from the prison, and the post-mortem inspection found that there are also prisoners on the 6th floor who are missing. These words fell, the expressions of many admirals in the field changed drastically. Every prisoner who was sent to the 6th floor was taken in by the Navy with a lot of effort. Now someone told them that someone on the 6th floor had escaped. It can be said that once these people, regardless of living in that area of the sea, will become a scourge. Silence, give me all the silence. Warring states patted the conference table heavily and said, this is the second time since the Golden Lion escaped from the Advanced City 15 years ago. Although, that kid doesn't have the famous reputation of the Golden Lion, but the number of people who escaped this time is dozens of times that of the Golden Lion. Now the sea outside is already in chaos. If the pirates outside know, if you are so rude, then where will the face of our Navy headquarters be left? The awe-inspiring voice echoed in the huge office, and there was no way to disperse it for a long time, causing the originally noisy situation to suddenly fall into a dead silence. Watching this scene, Zhongguo rubbed his swollen head and said, let's continue talking, and focus on saying that someone on the 6th floor is dead. Chapter 371, 350 million. Feeling the gazes from all around, Kizaru now regrets it a little, and ran to advance the city to intercept it, but now the arrow is on the string, and after a moment of hesitation, he still speaks. In addition to the 5th floor of the extreme cold hell, the mastermind Uchiha Ryu, he also conspired with him to betray and was imprisoned at the entrance of the 6th floor of Infinite Hell, Shiryu of the Long Reign, the former guard of the Advanced City. According to Magellan's speculation, the escape of the prisoner on the 6th floor is inseparable from Shiryu of the Reign. The King of Evil, Abaro Pizarro. Mysterious Moon Hunter Katarina Dipin. Big Wine Basque Chote. World Breaker Bondi Vardy. There are also 2 special prisoners imprisoned in the deepest part of the 6th floor. They are the descendants of the Devil Dagras Barrett. Red Earl, Ballery Clydefield. Every name that fell suddenly changed the atmosphere in the field. Especially when I heard the names of Barrett and the Red Earl, I was even more shocked. If it is said that the people in the front are the scourge of one party, then the 2 in the back are completely the existences who can make the times run wild by themselves. Is rumored to be able to rival the right hand of One Piece, Barrett of Raleigh of Hades. Known as the Red Earl Field, who fought against Roger and Whitebeard alone. Every harm is absolutely no worse than the Golden Lion that escaped from prison 15 years ago. The above is the list of personnel given by Magellan. Do you have any opinions or plan to act? After Sengoku looked around the arena, he spoke again. It's a good thing to know how to mend a dead sheep, but how to mend it is worth the headache. However, as soon as those words fell, the huge conference room fell into dead silence again. In this situation, speaking at will is to hit the gun at the muzzle. Witnessing this scene, Warring States frowned and shouted in a deep voice, "What's the matter? When you usually ask for credit, aren't you fast? Now let you think of a way, why don't you talk?" Marshal of the Warring States period, I can't blame them. Crane suddenly spoke, as the General Staff of the Navy, she has a certain right to speak. Except for Barrett and Field, each of these escaped prisoners has the strength not inferior to the Lieutenant General, or even surpassing the Lieutenant General, so I suggest that in addition to the 3 generals leading the pursuit, 2 lieutenant generals can also lead the pursuit. A hunting team will be formed, which will not only complement each other in battle, but also be able to retreat in time in case of an accident during the battle. As for the mastermind of this prison break, I hope you can raise the reward from 230 million to 350 million Marshal, so that others can pay enough attention. 350 million. The expressions of many admirals present changed suddenly. In the second half of the Great Waterway, commonly known as the New Lawless Place, there are many pirates with a reward of over 100 million. But 350 million. They are all famous existences. This kind of bounty amount, even if it is placed on the Chiwu Sea, is rarely comparable to it. I know you should be surprised. Why is a newcomer who is not well known? The reward reached 350 million at the beginning, but don't forget, he is the mastermind of the escape from the Advance City. May I ask if you are invested in the Advance who can escape from the city? Crane's face sank, and he gave a warning. It's not that I despise everyone here, but I just want you to know, who despise, who. He will lose his life in the next pursuit mission. The awe-inspiring voice fell, and except for the 3 generals and a very few lieutenant generals, the faces of the major generals turned blue. However, in the face of the Crane's words, there is no way to refute it. Okay, what I have to say, the Crane has already said it. Warring States knocked on the table and said, as for raising the reward to 350 million, I have no opinion. Of course, this emergency meeting is also for the vote of all members. If you don't agree, you can raise your hand and say your thoughts at the same time. However, as the words of the Warring States dissipated, the field remained silent. Along with the instructions from the Navy headquarters, a piece of explosive news quickly spread on the sea. Starting with a reward of 350 million, the mastermind of the plan to advance the city's escape, the name of Uchiha Ryu, like a hurricane, spread throughout the sea. 3 days later, Nine Snake Island entered the sea. 2 huge sea snakes raised their slender necks, stuck out their scarlet tongues, and dragged the pirate ship representing the honor of the 9 snakes out to sea. Lord Hancock, I'm going to go to sea again soon. It seems that there are only 3 days before my last expedition. By the way, you were sick in bed a few days ago. This time, Lord Hancock is planning to send away the man who entered the 9 Snake Island by mistake not long ago. Man, is that kind of? There is a man with 3 legs in the legend. Did you take a peek at it? Is it true? Of course I've seen it before. This is a rare opportunity. The length of a man's 3rd leg is simply tisk tisk tisk. A series of voices sounded at the mouth of the sea, and suddenly became very lively. Some female warriors who had never seen a man climbed to the heights, wanting to see the strangeness of the man's third leg. Feeling this different atmosphere, Long Yu, who was standing on the deck, couldn't help coughing. "Ha ha, little devil, to be honest, can this third leg make the old man feel happy?" Mother-in-law suddenly appeared and said with a big laugh. Long Yu rolled his eyes helplessly. This disrespectful guy said, "When I see Rayleigh, I will give you a message saying that you miss his third leg, he should be able to swim." "Find you, Rayleigh." The mother-in-law's expression became stagnant, and she immediately shouted angrily, "You brat, dare to make fun of the old lady." When the old lady looked at this thing, "You didn't know that you were in that corner. If you dare to say these words to Rayleigh, you just don't think that I will help you trick Hancock into marrying." However, as soon as the cruel words fell, Hancock's cold voice sounded from behind. "Someone, throw her out for me to feed the sea kings." "Sister, this. Throw me." As Hancock's order fell, the scene instantly turned chaos. Of course, they wouldn't really throw her mother-in-law into it to feed the sea kings, but they just planned to let her dangle less in front of Hancock. Otherwise, with Hancock's temperament, a few human sculptures would be created by accident. Not good. Under this slapstick, the Nine Snakes pirate ship also quickly left the port under the pull of the two sea snakes. Nine Snake Island is located in the windless zone, and ordinary pirate ships cannot sail at all except through external forces. Moreover, if some are not familiar with this sea area, or have the means to effectively deter the sea kings. Chapter 372, Ships. That waited for them to be shipwrecked. My concubine can only take you out of the windless belt. If you have other places to go, you can only rely on yourself for the rest of the journey. Hancock stood on the bow and said coldly. For this, Long Yu was not surprised. After all, the Nine Snake pirates are famous, but they are hostile to men, if they are seen by outsiders. The dignified female Emperor Hancock was actually on the same boat with a man, and it felt not much different from the same bed. "Don't worry, you can show me if there are any boats along the way, I'll just grab one," Long Yu said indifferently. On the island of Nine Snakes, he has already made a record hour hand to the Chambord Islands. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if there is no ship, he can still rely on the Bone King's flying technique to support him for a while. "Don't worry, finding prey is our Nine Snakes specialty, and the boat will definitely be able to help you find it." After Hancock dropped these words, he turned and left. Soon after the order fell, the female warriors of the Nine Snake pirates on the boat began to move. In Nine Snake Island, although it can be self-sufficient, many resources are obtained by looting merchant ships along the way. And Hancock's battle to become famous, as well as the invitation of Chiwahai, also came from the looting of an expedition. However, every time she was looted, because of the title of Shichibukai, she was spared the pursuit from the Navy headquarters afterwards. "Lord Hancock, there are 2 ships ahead, shall we go over and see?" A female soldier came hurriedly. Hancock raised his eyebrows and said, "What ship?" "It seems to be a large merchant ship transporting gold from the sky. I'm afraid there will be a local Navy escort." The female warrior hesitated for a moment. In the sky is the protection fee paid by the member countries to the world government every year. These protection fees will be personally escorted by some local navies. Before he became famous, Hancock sacked the merchant ships carrying the heavenly gold. But now she is already ranked in the Chiwahai, and the merchant ships that transport the gold in the sky are obviously mentioned in the Chiwahai Agreement. After all, the gold in the sky is also the face of the Tianlong people, in case something goes wrong. All that damages the dignity of the Tianlong people. Dragon people. Hancock heard the words, his pretty face turned pale, and his body trembled. This is from the fear of the past. However, before Hancock could continue to speak, a large hand directly covered her head and rubbed it lightly. The sudden scene stunned everyone in the audience. In their eyes, Hancock is an unattainable empress who can only look up. However, being so frivolously offended now completely comprehends them. Okay, you have eaten and drank for free on Nine Snake Island for several days. Before you leave, let's take a sigh of relief. Long Yu smiled warmly, withdrew his hand and looked at the huge merchant ship in the distance. Of the Tianlong people can set off my status as a supreme being. Next time we meet, I will resound through every corner of this sea. Goodbye. Leaving these words, the Bone King plate was activated instantly. Endless magical power, the black mist rolled back like a tide, taking the form of Ains Ergen. However, this time, he was holding a golden scepter and wearing a white skeleton posture, only a few points of the Emperor's Phoenix. Tier 2 Magic Flight. The voice suddenly changed from soft to indifferent. A cloak goes down automatically without wind. The whole person lifted off quickly. Boy, are you crazy? That's the merchant ship of the Tianlong people. If you do this, you will be watched by the Navy headquarters for the rest of your life. Why did my mother-in-law rush out from the corner in a hurry? Hancock, stop him quickly. I'm not afraid of lice. I think the Navy headquarters should miss me very much now. Long Yu's deep-set eyes, the flames of his soul flickered, and when he left these words, he turned into an afterimage, and the merchant ship carrying the gold from the sky in the distance swept away violently. Witnessing this scene, the mother-in-law looked anxious and said, Hancock. Throw her down for me. Hancock regained his senses, stood up slowly, and said, Dare to offend your concubine, I hope you can live until the next time we meet. However, as soon as these words fell, Sonia's voice came swiftly from the stern. Sister, you, hurry up and look at the reports of these 3 days. Newspaper. Hancock was startled at first. Even the mother-in-law who had been dragged away stopped and looked at Sonia subconsciously. However, when he saw the front page of the newspaper spread out in Sonia's hand, with the skeleton bounty on it, his pupils shrank suddenly. Hang, a reward of 350 million. What is the origin of that man? A female warrior stammered and said. Faced with this questioning, the moment everyone's nerves were tense, they all looked at Sonia. 3 days ago, as a subordinate of the world government, the advancing city Grand Prison, which stood side by side with the Navy headquarters and Judicial Island, had the largest escape incident in history, and the chaos even affected the infinite hell known as the 6th floor, and the dead the number is unknown, but the prisoners who escaped are definitely not a small number. For the first time, Sonia felt her tongue not being able to speak. However, when I thought of the terrifying content published in the newspaper, I gritted my teeth and continued. Then, the mastermind behind this escape incident is Uchiha Ryayu, who appeared on our Nine Snake Island and is known as the Great Skeleton Demon in the outside world. The awe-inspiring voice, at this moment, seemed to be filled with magical sounds, and there was no way to disperse it for a long time. Everyone's eyes swept around and locked on the figure that was swept away by the Tianlong people merchant ship. Their faces were full of disbelief. Hee, concubine has already said that he is not a simple person. All rumors about his appearance on Nine Snake Island are strictly prohibited. Next time we meet, concubine will find the place in person. Hancock chuckled lightly. Let's sail, return to the windless belt, and let's look for other prey. Departing with the ship of the 9 snake pirates. On the huge merchant ship carrying gold from the sky, a group of admirals wearing bone masks just took over the telescope. Lieutenant General Bastiu, the 9 snake pirates ship that appeared just now has turned around and left. The adjutant opened his mouth to report. Immediately, the Navy soldiers who were leaning on the railing all around showed a disappointed expression. As a Navy, I know a little about the rumors that are rumored at sea. But for male creatures, the most beautiful woman in the sea, the female Emperor Hancock, is so breathtaking that many people are willing to take the risk of death and see it at a glance. Seeing that the adjutant beside him also showed a loss, Bastiu snorted coldly, and said, "Why is everyone showing this expression? Isn't this expected? This time, what we are escorting is the heavenly gold sent by the countries of the East China Sea. The Empress is a member of the Chihuahai, but no one dares to offend the authority of the Tianlong people. 370th Chapters. The Things of the Tianlong People. Having said this, the adjutant immediately. Lieutenant General Bastius, you, rewrite, this is a fat mistake. As long as we complete this trip, the rewards of the world's nobles can equal our annual salary. What's more, even if someone with short eyes really came to commit the crime, once he heard the name of Lieutenant General Bastiou, he would have fled with his tail between his tails, so we still need to thank Lieutenant General Bastiou. Good job, we won. Yes, thank you, Lieutenant General Bastius. With Lieutenant General Bastius here, even if the fourth emperor comes, they will give 2 points of thin noodles. The huge deck suddenly became lively. The face of this bragging, the bragging force of the bull was blown away, and a smile appeared on Bastiou's serious cheeks. However, just as this arc appeared, an indifferent voice descended from the sky. Hee hee, it looks like I'm here at the wrong time. However, I have no intention of running away with my tail tucked, and I have no tail, so I can only tell you one very unfortunate thing. This ship, Ainzer, will ask for it. The small voice, at this moment, with the taste of directly hitting the soul, shook everyone's nerves. The adjutant's face sank, and Huo Ran raised his head and shouted angrily, who is so arrogant, dare to speak mad? Ruthless words were spit out, but after seeing the black shadow in the sky, the last word was swallowed back by the adjutant. Immediately, he stammered and said, yes, it's Uchiha Ryu, the big skeleton demon, how could he appear here? Skull Demon, isn't that the mastermind of the prisoner who escaped from the city and offered a reward of 350 million? He won't have the idea of playing gold in the sky, this is something of the Tianlong people. The huge deck suddenly became panic. No one would have imagined that a fat man who made a rare trip would encounter a prison breakout in Pushan City who was in the limelight recently. Is there a reward of 350 million? 3. The handwriting of your naval headquarters is really surprising. Long Yu was also a little surprised, but after changing his voice, he said again indifferently, however, you have said something wrong, I am the supreme being of the great tomb of Nazareth, Ainzer Gong, I am terrifying. The ruler of. Now, I'll give you 2 choices, 1, hand over this ship, 2, fight to the death, I'll give you 30 seconds to think. The indifferent words swept through the audience, everyone's faces changed drastically, even Bastius was no exception. Ding dong, tell the host to get the fidelity of the character template improved, the current fidelity is 40%. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining the 7th order magic, the root element of fire. The system's ethereal reminder sounded in Long Yu's mind, causing him to raise his brows. If I remember correctly, this 7th order fire source element, once activated, will summon a high-level fire element with a level of 85. Not only that, it has high attack fire attribute magic, but also has an immortal body under the face. As long as there is still a magic link, without the same level of water attribute magic, this high-level fire element will not disappear. The face of the sudden reward, Long Yu also left the consciousness space after browsing for a while, looked at Bastiou not far away, and said, the time is up, say your choice, war or surrender. The indifferent words sounded again. However, this time, it gave them a sense of death. Face. Terrifying appearance and the identity of the mastermind who escaped from the prison in the advancing city, if they were not afraid, this is absolutely impossible. For a time, everyone's eyes were locked on Bastius' body. The prisoners with a reward of 350 million. 3. It seems that only the title of Lieutenant General can give them a sense of security. I'm going to fight you alone, if you win, I'll give you the boat, but if you lose, we'll do it right away. Leave. Bastius raised his head suddenly, met Long Yu's gaze, and said solemnly, Bastius, will definitely defeat you even if I bet on the name of the Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters. You challenge me. Long Yu was slightly surprised, and shook his head with a casual sneer, and said, however, you think too highly of yourself, or you underestimate me. With your title of Lieutenant General, it's not worth my shot. In addition to indifference, the cold voice was not mixed with other emotional colors. However, it seemed a bit annoying when it fell on other people's ears. The dignified Lieutenant General of the Navy headquarters was so despised by others that his face was obviously unable to hold back. You bastard, you dare to despise me, I will see today, what ability do you have to stop my shark-slashing sword? Bastio's face sank, and he roared in anger. You really want to fight? Long Yu's gleaming eyes turned in vain. The dangling body quietly landed on the guardrail and said, since you want to humiliate yourself, then I will fulfill you. However, your opponent is my servant. Come out, Roots Fire Elemental Spirit. Dang, the violent magic power, like a frenzy, instantly detonated in Long Yu's body. A pair of deep-set eyes, and under the fast-beating soul flame, there is a scarlet magic circle that quickly blooms under the feet. The fiery waves of air rolled back in a rolling gesture, and an indescribable oppressive aura filled the air. That was endlessly floating in the void was quickly drawn out. Instant, it turned into a huge high elf with a height of 7 or 8 meters, wearing a flame coat. The scorching flames scorched the deck, which had been made of fireproof layers, and squeaked. This is still a high-level elemental elf. Under the order of Uchiha Ryayu, the flame was deliberately controlled, so that it did not burn instantly. What the hell is going on here? Of the people present suddenly changed drastically. Even Bastius is no exception. He had already obtained, about the skeleton demon, the method of summoning undead monsters similar to zombies out of thin air. But I never thought that this kind of monster would be created, with flames all over its body, and it exudes such a huge and depressing aura. Lieutenant General Bastius, what should we do? The lieutenant was the first to lose his temper. In front of them is beyond their cognition. Feeling the gazes cast from all around, Bastiu couldn't help clenching the huge shark-slashing knife measuring 1.2 meters in both hands. His face sank, and he shouted sharply, "It's just a mere way to cover your eyes. The goal is to kill the big skeleton demon. This kind of small thing, I can solve it with one knife." The awe-inspiring words came out. Bastiu suddenly clenched his hands and fingers together, and the aura of the whole person was like a scabbard-like sharp blade. The next moment, suddenly raised his head to face the high-level fire element, the whole person disappeared into place out of thin air. Chapter 374, Surrender or Die. Appeared again, already one step ahead, came to the front of the high fire element. Looking at the demented fire element, who couldn't react at all, Bastiu showed a playful smile on his face. Shave. His ghostly steps made Bastius disappear out of thin air again. Momi's wonderful operation made people stunned in place. He reacted. Bastiu had already taken the lead and appeared behind Long Yu. HMPH, the truth that a soldier never tires of deceit. Isn't it possible that no one has taught you that? Rather than dealing with these monsters that waste time, it's better to capture your king faster. Bastius smiled mischievously. Muscles of both hands bulged like a rock, and the huge force poured down like a tide, and suddenly fell down. Shark-cutting stunt to open the mouth. Boom! The violent scene shook everyone's nerves, and all the Navy soldiers showed ecstasy on their faces. After all, in their eyes, Long Yu and the fire elemental elf were like stupid big men, as if they couldn't react, and they stood there. This knife is really solid. It will definitely be able to take off the head of the great skeleton demon. Dang! The thunder-like metal collision sound resounded suddenly, causing a violent wave of air to roll back. The specially protected deck beneath his feet was also overwhelmed and burst open with a sound. However, in the face of all this, the 2-meter-high skeleton demon in front of him was as immobile as a mountain, falling into Bastius' eyes, causing his pupils to shrink involuntarily, and even his eye sockets almost split. This knife, he can easily cut even the Sea Kings. It is very good to catch the thief first, but you have forgotten one thing, the king is not mediocre. The cold voice came out. The moment Huo Ran turned his head, the exposed skeleton body was dyed pitch black at this moment. The wisps of black and ink-like armed color domineering, like a poisonous snake, circulated on the body. This is full-body armed arrogance. Bastiou's face changed drastically. There was no time to think about it, and he quickly pulled away and quickly retreated. However, as soon as the footsteps started, the words that fell in his ears tightened his nerves. You guessed it right, as a reward, let me see what qualifications the Vice Admiral of the Navy has to challenge the majesty of the king. Long Yu's indifferent words came out in a hurry. Which was as black as ink, was entangled by the flowing cherry blossoms, and there was an endless splash of thunderlight. If you don't make a move, it's already a killing move. This is the style of Long Yu. Dragon Claw Grenade Thunder Dragon's Breath. Bang! The big skeleton hand, which was as black as ink, clasped it directly on Bastiou's cheek with the speed of a thunderbolt. The next moment, before he could react to the 5 fingers of Skull's big hand, suddenly. Boom! The endless thunder, like a rage, exploded in time. The crackling arc of thunder splattered and shrouded Bastious in an instant. The seemingly indestructible bone mask shattered. Before Bastiou could react, his stout, bull-like body was lifted up like a baby. The next moment, it suddenly slammed down on the deck. Thunder escape heavy storm. Bang! Lightning strikes the deck in an instant. The seemingly indestructible deck, at this moment, shattered like a piece of paper, the violent attack posture couldn't be stopped at all, and it quickly spread around. The huge merchant ship tilted at this moment. The violent scene suddenly awakened the Navy soldier who had fallen into a trance. However, the first person to meet them was the icy gaze that was beating with the flame of the soul. Okay, the person in the way has been resolved. Long Yu said indifferently. However, fortunately, I am short of sailors now, so your lives can be guaranteed for the time being. Of course, you can also choose to jump into the sea and play with the Sea Kings, but don't be as stupid as the so-called Lieutenant General, thinking that the dignity of the king can be offended at will, otherwise there will be no exceptions in the end. Having said that, the scepter in Long Yu's hand stomped heavily on the deck. Immediately, he shouted in a cold voice, Tell me now, are you planning to surrender to the supreme being of the great tomb of Nazareth, Ains or Gong, or die? We surrender. Bastiou's voice suddenly came out from the deep pit on the deck of the ship. Soon, a figure with blood on its face, black smoke all over its body, and a little charred figure climbed out of the deep pit. Lieutenant General Bastious. The adjutant's expression changed suddenly. However, before he could finish speaking, he was stopped by Bastious' detective. Don't you even listen to my orders, right now. Go and fix the ship. The awe-inspiring words came out, with an unmistakable taste. The group of Navy soldiers could react. They saw Bastious turn around and said respectfully, Supreme, please state your destination, we will repair the ship immediately. Set sail. Looking at Bastiou, whose attitude changed 360 degrees, of course Long Yu knew what his plans were. However, what Long Yu has to do now is to increase the turmoil in this world. Only in this way can you get more turbulent points, so as to quickly liberate your own power. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for getting 1,000 points and 1 turbulence value. The current balance is 100 points, and the next time, the random unlock limit, still needs 1,000 points and 1. The ethereal voice of the system suddenly sounded. Looking at this scene, Long Yu was speechless. What this horse is trying to do. Moreover, the required turbulence point is still, it skyrocketed to 2,000 points in an instant. This system is too ugly. Supreme, your flame monster, can you temporarily withdraw? Bastious said cautiously. Long Yu withdrew from the space of consciousness, looking at the spirit of the root of fire, which was useless. The soul flame in his eyes flickered a little, and with a flick of his hand, it disappeared out of thin air. Seeing the high fire element disappear in front of him out of thin air, leaving behind a deck that was so severely burned that it almost burned through, Bastiou's cheeks couldn't help twitching. Okay, next, before I set a new sailing goal, continue to follow the original route, I wish you a happy journey." After Long Yu dropped these words, he turned around and walked towards the cabin. The battle just now did not consume much of his strength. But in the face of this sea full of unknowns, he still needs to maintain his peak state all the time. Moreover, he needs to figure out one thing, and at the same time prepare for the next huge storm. Looking at the back of Long Yu and disappearing from sight, the adjutant couldn't help but stagnate, and stammered, Is he a fool? He detained us, and even the phone bug was not confiscated. Could it be that he was not afraid? Are we tipping off the news?" Slap. Chapter 375. The Golden Robbery in the Sky is Good. However, as soon as these words were uttered, Bastius slapped him in the face. "Shut up and do ent care. What is his plan? What we have to do now is to try our best to save his life." Bastius snorted coldly and said, at the same time, "No matter what." He did it intentionally. If we lost the merchant ship that transported the gold in the sky, we have already committed a serious crime, and now is a good opportunity for us to make a contribution to the crime. Hurry up and give me the phone bug. These words fell, the expressions of the Navy soldiers present froze, and they instantly understood the seriousness of the matter. Losing the things of the Tianlong people, with the urine of the world's nobles, they are definitely a dead end. Right now is the only way to survive. Navy headquarters, in the marshal's office. The thick stack of files on the table, Warring States felt his head swell a bit. During this time, dozens of prisoners escaped from the Advanced City due to the fall of the Advanced City prison. Although the Warring States period has been immediately ordered to let the three generals split up to pursue the attack, and at the same time let many lieutenant generals join forces to deal with it. However, looking at the pursuit order issued by the world government, the brain is still tingling. "Cap, can't you eat less donuts and send me a boat?" Sengoku rolled his eyes helplessly. Still, on the sofa, Garp, who was leisurely eating donuts, almost wanted to rush up to strangle him. At present, a large number of fugitives have escaped from the advancing city, and the forces that the entire naval headquarters can send are working. Even his dignified admiral had a headache. Only Karp could still sit here and enjoy himself. "Cut, you still have a headache about the whereabouts of Uchiha Ryu, the mastermind of the escaped prisoner. The ocean is so big, even if I want to find it, I am powerless." Karp swallowed the donut in one gulp, took out his nostrils and said, "Don't forget, I asked you for a vacation not long ago, and went back to visit my precious grandson. According to time, that guy should also be qualified to come to the Navy headquarters to be a brigadier general." During this period of time, the old guy Zephyr has already been semi-retired, and the new generation he has cultivated is not as good as the next generation. It seems that it is still up to me to revive the glory of the Navy headquarters. "Your grandson." Warring States couldn't help being stunned for a moment, and then he said in a bad mood, "Cap, don't forget the rules of the Navy headquarters. How many newcomers, but watching the position of the Brigadier General climb up, you will take your grandson to the Brigadier General's position as soon as you speak. The location, I am afraid it is difficult to convince the public. And, if you say this, let that guy Zephyr hear, you must strangle you. Don't forget, what happened to this session." At the same time, among the newcomers, stationed at the estuary of the East China Sea, the town of Roger, where the pirate King Glogger was born, is a newcomer known as Smoke Smog, but the pirates are worried. Once the East China Sea pirates stop where they want to enter the Great Waterway to supply in advance, 90% cannot escape. Warring States period. A stack of Admiral's letters. Said, "This Hagiantina, who is in the same class as Smog, is even more powerful, and has a bit of a Peach Rabbit style. Also, this year's accident, who survived by virtue of his own strength, the newcomer of the retrograde fruit of human, Ain, and the newcomer of the superhuman fruit of prosperous, Bins. Once they come, they will be able to stand up to half the sky of naval justice. So, even if your grandson comes, you have to start as a low-level soldier." The voice of Chang's words echoed in the office. However, in the face of the persuasion of the Warring States period, Garp took out his nostrils, bounced the huge booger, and said, "No, it's a big deal. After I bring that kid, I will challenge the brigadier generals one by one and beat them all down. There's still grievances, weren't we like that back then?" Seeing that the oil and salt were not getting in, and thinking of Garp back then, Sengoku reluctantly rubbed his swollen head. In the era of the great pirates, there were many strong men, and the strong men of the navy were replaced too quickly. Therefore, the rules are not as many as they are now, and most of the time it is a fist to talk about things. But it is precisely because of this reason that the headquarters of the navy is too chaotic, and many generals have defected. Finally, after the Warring States period became a general, this rule was abolished and the so-called military merit system was implemented. It would be a breach of the rules to let Garp go to pick up his so-called grandson and come to the Navy headquarters now. Thinking of this, Warring States immediately couldn't hold back his anger, and wanted to say something to stop him. However, a rush of phone bugs sounded first. "Mosamoxi, I'm Bastius, I beg the marshal immediately. Talk directly." The rapid phone bug rang out without warning. Kapuna just had the idea of leaving, but was instantly dispelled, frowned, and said, "This Bastiu, didn't you rob me not long ago and ran to the East China Sea to escort the gold in the sky? Why suddenly I passed the superior general and asked to talk to you?" Looking at Garp with a puzzled face, Sengoku couldn't help but glared and said, "You want to be lazy in the name of escorting the heavenly gold, but you just slept, and it was too late to grab the mission from Bastius." However, he was so anxious to contact him, did he come across some news of a prisoner? While talking, Sengoku ignored Garp and connected the phone bug. However, before he could speak, Bastius had already spoken first. "Marshal of the Warring States period, something is wrong. The merchant ship transporting the gold in the sky was attacked by Uchiha Ryu, and all of us fell into his hands, asking for support." What Sengoku's face changed drastically, and he couldn't help standing up. If Tiantianjin was attacked, he might not be so excited. But now, the mastermind of the prison escape in Pushin City, who has been searching hard but could not be found, finally appeared. "Haha, it seems that the gold was robbed in the sky, but it is a great good thing. Hurry up and report the coordinates to the Warring States." He is so anxious that his head is smoking. Garp pinched his nostrils and laughed. "I also really want to see who this little devil is, who can toss more than a golden lion. The golden robbery in the sky is good." Bastiu's face suddenly turned bitter. This was about the lives of hundreds of people in their entire ship. Now to Garp's mouth, it has turned into a good thing, and the gap is too big. "Cap shut me up." Sengoku glared at him and said, "Bastiu, don't be nervous, this time the gold in the sky was robbed. It seems that I will help you solve it on the Tianlong people's side, and you can find the whereabouts of Uchiha Longyu, but it is a great work. Now please calm down and tell me the whole process, and why you still have a phone bug in your hand to contact me, and where is Uchiha Ryu's destination?" The Sengoku, who is called the General of the Navy, raised many questions in an instant. After all, in his eyes, no matter what Bastiu has any reason to be able to connect with himself, and this situation is racing against time. Chapter 376. Go to the Navy headquarters. Bastiu paused for 7 or 8 seconds, and then hurriedly opened his mouth. With the guarantee of the Warring States period, he was not worried about the Heavenly Dragon's reckoning. "Not long ago, we just left the Windless Belt and were on our way back to the Holy Land Marijoa when we encountered a big skeleton demon who fell from the sky. Afterwards, we also had a short fight." Along with a series of hurried voices, Sengoku's expression became more and more gloomy. When Bastiu finished the last word, he immediately said, "You mean, Uchiha Ryu, in addition to being able to create zombie-like monsters besides, is it possible to create flame-type creatures?" Furthermore, in the last meeting, Kizaru mentioned very precisely that Uchiha Ryu did not display his armed arrogance, and according to Magellan's report, he did not find it. Right now, he suddenly displays a high-level Liu Ying, defeats you instantly, and controls the power of thunder. There are only 2 possibilities. First, he has always been clumsy and likes to pretend to be a pig and eat a tiger. Second, he has superb learning ability. In just a few days, not only learned the armed arrogance, but also mastered the high arrogance. Speaking of this, there was a dignified expression on Sengoku's cheeks, and he said, "If it is one, it proves that this Uchiha Ryu is scheming, and it also matches the identity of the mastermind of the prison escape incident in the city. If it is the second, in a short period of time. In just a few days, if you will learn to be domineering in armed color, then this person must not stay outside, and he must be captured as soon as possible." With Sengoku's analysis, even Carp forgot to continue digging his nostrils. As the developer of the 6th-style taijutsu, Garp's physique talent is very high, and his domineering accomplishments have long been unfathomable. It can be said that there is no problem in breaking a mountain with one punch. However, it is precisely because of this reason that he is even more aware that if he can sharpen his armament and domineering to a high level in a short period of time, that means that this Uchiha Ryu can no longer be measured by genius. Word enchanting might be the best noun. Okay, you don't have to be nervous, this is just my speculation, and what Uchiha Ryu is doing now, and his strength are all within the controllable range, compared with those tricky Chiwahai and the 4 emperors. Before we have no power of our own, we are still babies, so what we have to do is to kill them in advance. Warring States said in a deep voice. These words fell. Bastiu quickly reacted and said anxiously, "Marshal of the Warring States period is right, he is only alone now, as long as we gather the strength of our navy, he can be crushed casually. It's just that the order he is giving now is for us to continue to the Holy Land Mary Joa. We don't know the exact location and target, and this phone bug, he should have specially left it to us for tip-off." Warring States couldn't help but nodded, frowned slightly, and said, "I am afraid that he is provoking our navy by doing this, but this is exactly what we want. That guy, the more arrogant, the more we will be able to take the initiative as soon as possible. What you need to do now is to obey him temporarily, and at the same time, always send the trend back to us. Next, since that guy provokes our Navy headquarters, then I'll let him see the true strength of our Navy." The voice of Chang's words is mixed with an unquestionable taste. After a few words of greetings again, Warring States cut off the phone. Regardless of whether the other party has it, but reducing the call time is undoubtedly the most likely to reduce the chance of change. Warring States, you should have a countermeasure. Carp spoke suddenly. Warring States put down the phone bug in his hand, looked at Garp, who rarely showed interest, and said, "Hee, it seems that you are also interested, want to find out the foundation of this guy, since the last time, I think it was when Roger was alive. However, this time, for the sake of prudence, I still intend to bring Akainu and Kizaru back. As for Qingzi, who went to the East China Sea to pursue Walder, the distance is too long. With his temper, he will not be able to come back for a while. It's just that there are Akainu and Kayabu, that guy doesn't care. Choosing that target spot to settle down is enough to capture him alive. To be alone, dare to take the initiative to provoke our naval headquarters, this is impatient." Speaking of which, Sengoku picked up another golden phone bug, and after pressing the red button, a rush of summoning sirens spread throughout the entire naval headquarters. That was running to the extreme stopped in an instant, showing a shocked expression. 15 years since the last recorded alarm sounded, when the Golden Lion attacked Marin Vando. A day later, head to the waterway of the Navy headquarters. 2 merchant ships carrying gold from the sky are moving fast on the wind. Even the sails of the mast are raised to the top, in order to increase the speed of the ship to the extreme, so that it can reach the naval headquarters as soon as possible. Some of the Navy in charge of the helm, as well as Bastiu, who was standing on the bow with a wound and bloodstain on his face, would take a look at the cabin behind him every once in a while. Deep in the pupils, there is a hint of urgency from time to time. In their eyes, as long as Uchiha Ryu has not changed his mind, he has arrived at the center of influence of the Navy headquarters. Then, no matter how powerful the skeleton demon, no matter how powerful it is absolutely impossible to fly. At that time, they will also make a huge contribution to the robbing of the gold in the sky this time. Thinking of this, Bastius couldn't help but shouted loudly, "Keep your eyes on the steering wheel, go at full speed, and be sure to return to the Navy headquarters within 2 days." All the Navy soldiers were immediately shocked, although doing so would easily break the sails and masts, and even the keel of the ship would be damaged. However, when they thought of the terrifying power of the great skeleton demon, their hearts seemed to be tightly clenched by an invisible big hand, and there was an illusion that they couldn't breathe. However, this excitement just sprouted in their hearts, and the words that fell in their ears shook their nerves. "Stop." The simple 3 words, mixed with the extremely cold taste, drifted out from the cabin. Before everyone could react, the first thing that caught the eye was Long Yu, who was holding a scepter and walked out slowly, showing himself as the King of Bones. Seeing this sudden scene, while the expressions of the people present changed drastically, Bastius hurriedly stepped forward and explained, "Lord Ains, we have no other intentions." Meaning? The soul flame in Long Yu's eyes turned in vain and landed on Bastius, saying, "Do you think I will be interested in your stupid ideas?" Long Yu's current idea is to use the hands of the Navy to increase his influence on the world, thereby causing shocks and gaining more turmoil points. Therefore, he tacitly acquiesced to Bastius' approach to tipping off. Chapter 377, The Dead Game. However, under this kind of tip-off, how to find a trace of vitality in the big net cast by the naval headquarters, mainly to counter the passengers. This is what Long Yu has to do now. When Bastius heaved a sigh of relief, his expression changed. This confident attitude made him even more incomprehensible. In front of him, he was the mastermind behind the plan of escape from the big underwater prison in the city. Moreover, he couldn't understand that the person in front of him, from the information provided by Magellan, was clearly a boy called Uchiha Ryu. Why, after using the devil fruit ability, he became the great skeleton demon and called himself His Excellency Ains Ergong. However, in the face of this series of confusions, Bastius hesitated for a while, and then he gritted his teeth and asked, "Your Excellency Ains, are you planning to change your route, or do you have any other plans?" In Bastius' eyes, since the other party clearly knew about their small actions in private. Now let them stop the ship, there should be some idea. "I want to do an experiment and need your help." The soul flame in Long Yu's eyes is jumping. With his eyes on the sea, he turned around in vain, and the scepter in his hand suddenly stomped towards the deck. The temptation of the second-level magic succubus. When the scarlet magic circle quickly bloomed under Long Yu's feet, and the naval soldiers who passed by couldn't help but retreat. However, facing the magic circle that passed by in the blink of an eye, they were already covered in it as soon as they moved. An unusually strange smell spread quickly on their bodies. The strange scene made Bastios' face change drastically. Looking at Long Yu in a hurry, he shouted in a hurry, "You, what have you done to us, and what is the experiment in your mouth?" After seeing with his own eyes, Long Yu's extremely bizarre methods, at this juncture, Long Yu's every move has plucked their nerve strings. "Hee, please don't worry, this is an experimental game of life and death. Of course, as long as your strength is stronger and your cooperation is more skillful, your chances of survival will also increase. It may be all dead, or one may die, or all may die." Long Yu laughed dryly, and under the endless black mist behind him, a specially made skeleton emperor chair appeared behind him. Immediately, in front of everyone's eyes, the big horse sat down with a golden knife. Facing everyone's astonished gaze, the scepter in his hand stomped abruptly and said, "The game of the dead now begins." Bang! In the silent sea, the sound of low water waves breaking through, suddenly sounded. Huge bodies rushed out of the sea, casting huge black shadows. Those round eyes turned into blood-colored scarlet, making people feel a sense of shock. What the hell is going on here? Bastiu's face turned pale. Looking at the Sea Kings rushing out one after another, the number has reached 20 in the blink of an eye. If they continue at this level, it will be a mortal situation that awaits them. Hee hee, don't try to escape. The light that shone on your body just now can stimulate the tyrannical carnivorous nature of these sea kings, no matter what. Wherever you flee, you will end up in a dead end. The scepter in dragon feathers. So, there is only one in front of you. Under the attack of these sea kings, I will support you for half a day. In the process, I will help you a little bit, at least let my experiment in this game add a little more interest. Now, please Lieutenant General Bastiu, your name of slashing sharks, play to the extreme, otherwise you will end up dead. Having said that, the scepter that Long Yu was playing with, stomped again suddenly, and the simple words came out. Start. Roar. The deafening roar exploded like thunder. A fall, completely aroused, the fierceness of these sea kings. The most unacceptable thing for them, the pink light on their bodies was even worse than before. It was as if he was covered in a light coat. The face of the attacking wind, Bastia's face turned pale, he suddenly drew out his shark-slashing sword, and roared angrily. Ains Gong, you devil! All enter the first level combat alert, use the battle formation, must persevere, let us go back alive and see our family. Live. Open the cannons and suppress their offensive. The snipers must spot the weak spot and kill them with one hit. Urgent cries rang out on the huge deck. Looking at this scene, Long Yu, the white bone finger, tapped lightly on the head of the chair. The roar of fierce tears burst like thunder. A tail as thick as an iron pillar, with an awe-inspiring sound of breaking through the air, was photographed head-on towards the merchant ship. The fishy wind and the sea water tensed everyone's nerves. The sea king in front of me looks like a giant sea snake with a length of more than 10 meters, but if this blow is really a hit, this special merchant ship that transports gold in the sky will definitely collapse in an instant. Sharp chopping. The awe-inspiring roar suddenly sounded, and the moment Bastius stomped the ground, he disappeared like a ghost out of thin air. Appeared again, and came to the sea snake that was rushing. The shark-slashing sword, which was suddenly clenched in both hands, made a stern sound of breaking through the air, and collided head-on with the incoming giant tail. The giant tail and the shark-slashing sword collided instantly, and the sturdy scales were shattered. The blood splashed down the big pendant, and the thick tail that only a few people could embrace was cut off at the waist. The sea snake let out a scream. Bastius slashed again from the air with his backhand. The vacuum-slashed Bastius roared again and again. Of 7 or 8 meters pierced the air instantly and slashed on the sea snake's head. The seemingly indestructible scale armor shattered in response, the huge snake head was thrown down, and the blood of the big tent splattered down, dyeing the sea red. Once the hit was successful, the morale that had been a little low was restored a little bit. After Bastiu blocked the first shot, the surrounding gunners also fired their artillery. Accompanied by a roar, the attacking sea kings were directly repelled. However, in the face of the fierce sea kings, these blockades only made their attacks a little stagnant. The next moment, the sea kings rushing in behind, directly passed them, and launched a more ferocious offensive towards them. Bastiu's face changed slightly. He raised his hand and slashed 4 or 5 in all directions, and after a vacuum slash, he roared anxiously. Second echelon, close hand-to-hand combat. These words fell, the sturdy Navy soldiers who were hiding in the team came out one after another with heavy weapons. The various sea kings attacked by Khan Z roared in unison. Iron Block. 370th 8 chapters, live. With the 6 styles together, more than a dozen sturdy Navy soldiers blocked the attack route of the Sea Kings head-on. The next moment, they collided with each other. The huge impact of the bang was released like a frenzy, giving people the feeling that it was like a train colliding head-on. The deck underfoot not only shattered, but a person flew out like a sandbag. The violent scene obviously made the already precarious faction defeated in an instant. A Sea King may not be something to be afraid of, but when dozens of Sea Kings are attacked like crazy at sea, if there is no strong strength, there is no way to deal with it. Go away. Shark slashing storm slash. Bastiu clearly had good strength. When he was drinking violently, he clenched the shark-slashing sword tightly in both hands, and it turned like a hurricane. The sea kings that were chasing after were instantly hit by endless wind blade slashes, pouring down on the body's surface like rain hitting bananas. That could not be avoided were instantly smashed and turned into a blood mist that swept across the sea. Together with the huge deck, it was also covered with blood plasma for a while. Let the stench in the air linger even more. However, it was precisely for this reason that the Sea King's offensive that had gone mad obviously had a slight stagnation. It gave Bastius and a group of Navy soldiers a chance to breathe. The pungent bloody smell around him, a trace of resentment appeared on Bastiu's face, his eyes turned in vain, and he landed on Long Yu, who was sitting on the ground, and roared in a hurry. "You devil, what are you going to do? Kill if you want, why are you teasing us like this?" "Teasing?" Long Yu asked indifferently, and immediately laughed dryly. "This is a new world. Between soldiers and thieves, apart from life and death, do you have pity on a pirate? One more thing, I am a skeleton, not a devil, although the name of the devil is very good. In order to thank you for pleasing me, please do your duty as an experiment, and I will not let you die easily." The Third Order Magic Group heals. Second Tier 2 Magic Orcs go crazy. Dang dang. The voices of the two magic circles sounded, and the red and blue rays of light bloomed in an instant, forming two magic circles that enveloped the entire merchant ship. The violent scene shook everyone's nerves, and even Bastia's face turned ashen. After seeing the strange methods of Long Yu, which caused a large group of Sea Kings to riot. They don't dare to be too big. However, before they could react, the moment the blue misty rain fell on the body, the injuries on the skin and bones quickly healed. At the same time, a tyrannical force, like a torrent, was rapidly surging away. Muscles of the whole body are like a rock, moving. Unprecedented and abundant power made Bastiu and the others' faces change dramatically, and their eyes locked on Long Yu's body. "This is your strength. Hee, what is it, what is it not? Just live, there is no mercy in the new world, it will take half a day for you to survive." Long Yu said with a cold smile. "I hope to meet in a while, and you can still survive." These words, Long Yu turned around and disappeared into place out of thin air. The sudden scene made Bastio's face change slightly. The domineering quickly swept through. Bastius was stunned in place. "Lord Bastius, send, what happened, that skeleton demon? Where have you been?" The adjutant's expression changed involuntarily. "Didn't you notice that he disappeared, not on the boat?" Bastius glanced back. An absurd idea popped up in his mind. Escape. However, as soon as this idea came to mind, Bastius quickly annihilated it in his mind. Mention, this time is about whether or not to catch Uchiha Ryu's lure battle. Just facing the Sea Kings who are staring at all around, they have no way to retreat. And with these two inexplicable light formations, everyone's injuries and strengths have been improved. Under such circumstances, it is not surprising that it may be able to resist. Thinking of this, a flash of determination flashed on Bastiu's face, and he shouted sharply, "Don't think about escaping, the method of the skeleton demon is not something we can guess, the only thing we can do now is to attack the Sea Kings. Support half a day to live. Everyone, listen to me, take turns attacking and defending the camp. The method that the great skeleton demon used just now has the effect of healing. We try our best to exchange injuries to kill these Sea Kings, although I also really want to kill the great skeleton demon. Thousands of swords have been slashed, but he has a sentence, and he is right, this is the great waterway, and there is no mercy in the new world." Whoa! 20 or 30 nautical miles away, an air hissing sound suddenly sounded, and a door of light was torn open immediately. Soon, Long Yu stepped out of it, and at the moment when the soul flames flowed in his eyes, he saw a domineering look and rolled back like a frenzy. "It should be around here. Found it." Long Yu muttered to himself, then suddenly turned to look further afield. As soon as his eyes fell, a fiery pillar of fire, with an awe-inspiring posture, rose straight into the sky of the 9 heavens. The black lead clouds accumulated in the sky, under this blow, rolled back directly, and a big hole was pierced abruptly. Who witnessed this scene did not stop for a moment. His figure swayed, his magic power surged, and a portal was torn open again, and he jumped to the space-time of the island ahead. Boom! The soaring flames shattered the backlogged lead clouds, and finally, collapsed in the sky in all directions. On the scorched earth with a radius of 10,000 meters, 2 panting figures stood opposite each other, their clothes more or less blackened and charred. However, in the face of this situation, the spirit of the 2 of them was obviously brought to the extreme, and the chi machine was locked on the other's body, and there was no relaxation at all. Fire Fist Ace, if you plan to challenge Dad, you should pass me first. Whole body is dark blue, and the eyebrows are like a murloc, and he is the first to speak. The boy opposite to him was a supernova from the East China Sea, the captain of the Spade Pirates, and Fire Fist Ace with a reward of 400 million. Jinping, although you are Chihuahua, we Captain Ace, but the first person in supernova, you can't stop it. The crew of the Spade Pirates, who stood in the distance and cheered, shouted one after another. Looking at it for a moment, it became a lively scene. Ace, who was full of pockmarks, took off the hat on his head, smiled proudly, and said, Jinping, I didn't expect that I would meet you here. Whitebeard is known as the strongest man, then I will remove his head and let the world know that I, Fire Fist Ace, are the strongest existence. Also, my subordinates are the best in 100. You might as well join my subordinates and join me in the quest for Whitebeard. The small voice, as if infused with a magic voice, echoed in the 4 directions of the sky, and there was no way to disperse it for a long time. Chapter 379, What monster is this? Jinping's expression sank when he heard the words. Ace, Dad's benevolence and righteousness is not something you can understand, his solicitation is only for the strong, so I hope you can think about it again, otherwise don't blame me for taking action. Defeat you, and bring it back to the father. Voice fell, and the atmosphere in the field was inexplicably depressed. Since the negotiation is not right, there is only one result that follows. However, before they could react, an unexpected voice suddenly came from the sky. I said, you are not tired of talking, and I am tired of watching. If you don't fight, then I will. The faces of the people present changed suddenly, they did not wait for them to raise their heads. Shrouded in black cloak and covered in white bones descended from the sky. On the merchant ship transporting the gold from the sky, Long Yu saw signs of fire in the distance from a distance. Why I temporarily gave up the experiment and ran to join in the fun. But, I didn't expect that it was really guessed by him. This is the 5-day honeymoon battle between Fire Fist Ace and Jinping in the original book. Who are you, dare to hinder our head of the duel? Come on, shoot this troublemaker for me. A member of Spades who seemed to be not low level, looked at Long Yu who appeared 7 or 8 meters away from them, and shouted first. Backhanded, he took out the musket, and pulled the trigger suddenly. However, this scene fell into Jinping's eyes, but made his pupils shrink suddenly, and he shouted in a hurry, Stop, he is not something you can mess with. Bang bang bang, the gunshots rang out suddenly. Dozens of fiery bullets fell on Long Yu's body like pear blossoms in a torrential rain. However, in the face of all this, Long Yu was completely unknown. The huge scepter in his hand was reinserted on the ground. Dang, the crisp chiming of the bell sounded suddenly. A huge blue magic circle bloomed around Long Yu's body. The next moment, before everyone could react, an indescribable aura descended from the sky. Super magic sky fall. Boom! A violent beam of light swoops down from the sky like a comet. The speed was so fast that it was impossible to react. Senses, I hurriedly looked up at the sky, it was already too late. Bang! A thunderous explosion resounded. The blue beam of light, with the dragon feather as the center, shrouded the huge deserted island. The rocks collapsed, the sand and dust rolled back, and the impact of the air waves directly set off a wave of more than 10 meters, sweeping away around. Instant, this piece of sea seemed to have entered the end of the world. What is the origin of this lunatic, and how did he make a sneak attack? In the blast wave, a flame channel was torn out instantly. Soon I saw Ace and Jinpei coming out. As a natural fruit ability, as long as it is not a special attack method, it will not suffer too much damage. However, before Ace could recover, an icy voice suddenly sounded in the rubble of the explosion. Have you misunderstood? I'm just clearing the field. With the posture of a bone king, Long Yu walked out slowly in the blast wave. The moment Huo Ran raised his head, in those deep-sunk eyes, the flickering soul flame became more and more intense, and said, if you don't pull some hatred, how can you use all your strength? Crazy. A thought flashed across Ace and Jinpei's mind. Clear the field with your ultimate. Wound those minions to inflame their hatred. This undoubtedly exceeded their expectations. He thought that those subordinates just couldn't react at all and were swallowed up by the attack. Aston roared in anger. Okay, very good, I'll let you see how scary I am when I get serious. However, before he could make a move, Jinbei had already stopped him first, and said with a sullen face, don't underestimate the enemy. If I remember correctly, he should have been promoted to the Chanda prison to escape a few days ago, and was named by the Navy headquarters as a prison escape. Mastermind, there is a reward of 350 million 3 skeleton monsters. 350 million 3 inches. Ace was stunned at first, then a trace of disdain flashed on his face, and he shouted angrily. It's only 350 million 3, and you dare to go wild in front of me. Today I will take your head off. Voice fell, Ace moved first. Without any bells and whistles, he punched Long Yu in the air. Fire fist. Boom, the low roar of the air suddenly sounded. The fiery flame exploded on the fist, it turned into a frenzy of training and rolled towards Long Yu. Bang, the fiery fire fist, like a cannonball, rolled towards Long Yu head-on. Instant, he was submerged in it. The explosion caused by the air wave made the flames go straight into the sky. Who witnessed this scene, flashed a murderous intent in his pupils, and in a flash, he rushed into the explosion circle first. Ace, be careful and deceitful, it shouldn't be easy for him to become the mastermind of jailbreak. Jinping's expression changed involuntarily, and he hurriedly reminded. In his eyes, Ace's strength is good, but the only thing lacking is that he is young and vigorous, and lacks in judging the gap between the enemy and us. Otherwise, he wouldn't do anything stupid to challenge Whitebeard. HMPH, a guy who was lucky enough to escape from the prison CA and even escape the Navy. What ability can he have, and my reward is 50 million higher than his. Ace didn't look back, snorted disdainfully, and appeared in front of the flame column. However, before he could react, the flames soaring to the sky showed a stagnation, those flames created by his fruit ability. More, at this moment, the link with him was disconnected. The sudden scene made Ace look stunned. The next moment, the first to catch the eye, a pair of flaming eyes lit up in the sea of fire. A huge sword several meters in size condensed from flames slashed towards Esri. The unexpected scene made Ace startled at first. Before I could think about it, I hurriedly raised my hands to block. Bang! Huge power, cathartic like a frenzy. The flaming giant sword could not inflict fatal injuries on Ace, but the distance it contained instantly overturned him and smashed him heavily on the rock formations dozens of meters away. Ace! Jinbei rushed up quickly. As soon as he approached, he saw Ace turning over from the ruins, his face was ashen, and he hurriedly looked at Long Yu. However, when he entered the scene, his pupils could not help but shrink. What kind of monster is this? 7 or 8 meters high, the root element of fire stands in front of Long Yu. Originally, Long Yu, who was in the sea of fire, stood behind him unscathed. Of the white bone skeleton clenched the scepter a little and said, "This is some of my little tricks. You can think of it as someone who has the ability to burn fruit just like you." However, before I defeat you, I want to ask a question. Has my reputation spread far and wide in this sea? Chapter 380, A Better Way. The one who burns fruit like me. Ace's expression was stagnant, and then his face showed a hint of madness, and the endless flames spewed from his body. Like a cannonball, it shot towards Long Yu again. Tens of meters, but in the blink of an eye. As soon as he appeared in front of the element of the root of fire, Ace suddenly pressed his hands in the air. Mirror flame. Boom! The violent fire column detonated instantly in the hand. At a close distance, it directly penetrated the body of the root element of fire. Yu Wei shot down 100 meters away unabated. Boom! The rock formation collapsed in response to the sound, and the huge impact force caused the hot air waves to roll back. However, looking at the fire element that was penetrated in the chest, after a little squirming, it healed again. The height of 7 or 8 meters, under the infusion of flames, was forced to rise again, reaching a posture of 12 or 3 meters, making Ace's expression suddenly white. In his eyes, the monster in front of him not only possesses elemental undead means, but can also absorb his flames and enhance his own strength. If it weren't for the difference in appearance, I'm afraid it's really like what Long Yu said. The fire element in front of you will be another Ace. Hee, I said, you can't win it. Long Yu laughed dryly, and in his deep-set eyes, the flame of his soul jumped down and landed on Jinping's body, saying, Trouble, you answer my question just now, and I will use this to judge whether to kill you or not. Killing Ace was stunned for a moment, then roared frantically, It's just arrogant. I may not be able to kill it, but as long as the attack is strong enough that the monster can't protect you, then it can only be certain death. Diane quits Yan Emperor. Ace suddenly raised his right hand, and endless flames quickly emerged in his right hand. Jinping's face changed drastically, and he shouted anxiously, Ace, hurry up and distance. There are rumors that the guy's speed is as fast as lightning, and he sank the yellow monkey with one punch, and was almost buried in the sea. Lightning fast. Ace couldn't help but stunned, and there was a slight stagnation in the movements in his hands. However, before he could react, the indifferent voice that fell in his ear shook his nerves. It's a rumor again, but I'm really faster than lightning. The sound of crackling electric current reverberated, and the next moment Long Yu's skeleton took a big step, and under the endless thunder, he directly entered the Thunder Chakra mode. Coupled with the Navy's 6th style shave that I learned not long ago, the speed is completely indescribable in words. With the sound of breaking the air, Ace just felt a flower in front of him. A huge figure that stabilized his head was now in front of him. The dark and domineering armament color has already covered his hands, coupled with the crackling thunderlight, the hands that stick out are as fast as lightning. Suddenly, Ace's face was squeezed. I'm sorry, the difference is not. The reward can be measured. For example, you don't even understand the domineering of armed colors. Indifferent voice, without the slightest emotional color. Ace just felt his face tighten, and the next moment, his whole body slammed down on the ground like a heavy hammer. Flowing cherry black storm heavy flow. Boom! A thunderous explosion resounded suddenly. The endless thunder light, mixed with the black and black-armed color domineering, was like a 9-day thunder, smashing on the rock formations and the earth. The huge impact was pouring out like a frenzy. The rock formations and the earth collapsed with a bang, and the wind wave that rolled backwards overturned the earth with a radius of 1,000 meters. The billowing sand and dust rolled back and the debris flew horizontally. When Jinping's complexion changed drastically, he couldn't help but quickly took a few steps back. After the sand and dust had subsided a little, Jinpei's hands and fingers suddenly tightened, and his armed arrogance quickly flowed down before rushing to the attack center. However, just after walking half a step, a hurricane centered on the battlefield suddenly rolled up, revealing a large circular pit with a depth of 12 or 3 meters. Immediately, he saw Ace, whose life and death were unknown, and Long Yu, who was standing by the side unscathed. Seeing the victory and defeat in one blow, Jinbei's expression suddenly changed. Just now he fought with Ace, just holding back the idea of blocking and delaying time. After all, Whitebeard personally issued the surrender order, and Jinpei didn't plan to use his armed arrogance to confront Ace head-on. But I never thought that the big skeleton demon in front of him would directly defeat Ace, who is known as the first person in Supernova. A dead silence on the huge ruins. Armed with domineering Jinping, his pupils shrank slightly. He asked anxiously, "Why are you attacking us? Are you planning to catch Brother Ace and make a deal with the world government?" In Jinbei's eyes, it is not uncommon for this kind of thing to deliberately attack other pirates in order to trade with the world government. Among them, similar things happened in their Chihuahai. Trade with him. Long Yu glanced at Ace, who was lying on the ground and passed out in a coma, and said, "You guessed wrong. I'm just going to spread my fame and make this sea, because of me, turbulent. Originally, I did want to kill him, but now I think of a better way." Better way. Jinbei was stunned at first, and then said in a hurry, "As long as you don't kill him, anything can be discussed. And, in order to express sincerity, I will answer the question you asked me just now. I was on the way here, in a tavern, and accidentally got your information and a reward order. According to the time at sea, the major forces should get your information soon. Are you satisfied with this answer?" Hu was a little anxious, the soul flame in Long Yu's eyes flickered, and he also fell into a brief pondering. He did not doubt that Jinping, who had always claimed to be chivalrous, would tell lies. Only in this way can I prove that when I escaped from the big underwater prison and caused such a big mess, why the shock point only increased by a few hundred points. Moreover, with Jinbei's nervous attitude, he may already know Ace's true identity. At the same time, I am afraid that Whitebeard has given more orders, and he must get Ace's order. This made Long Yu dismiss the idea of killing Ace to increase his prestige. Just ask. A dead man doesn't care how beautiful in his life, once he dies, his reputation will gradually be forgotten with the passage of time. Do you want me to let him go? Long Yu suddenly raised his head and looked at Jinping. Facing this unexpected question, Jinbei nodded subconsciously. Before he could react, a phone bug flew towards him. "Take me some pictures and prove that I beat him." Long Yu spoke lightly,